Hey, how's it going, guys? Hey, Rolly, good to see you. Final boss, Dean. Is the sound coming through? Oh, I guess that's not good. Just getting things set up. Hey, Andrew. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. All right. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done a live stream. I was actually ready to go with this material like about 2 weeks ago, and I came down with like the worst flu I ever had. So it was like a week and a half nightmare. So thankfully that's mostly over. Hopefully I don't like start coughing or anything while I'm doing this. I might have to only do about half of the material. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that was horrible. Final boss was watching The Skeleton Key. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. I've never seen that movie, but that's interesting. The word key is a huge um, aspect and key or keyword of the world script. All right, so interestingly enough, the four things that I chose to put in this thumbnail, three of them are Mandela affected titles. This Metal Gear Solid has the deltas and some other like the open D here. I don't know if you can see this my cursor. Oh, there it is. And Naruto has the extended R that we've seen a lot of, and Fight Club is just totally ridiculous. I don't know if you guys have seen this change. I've talked about it a few times, but this is if you're familiar with Fight Club, I mean, this is a 100% change. Like, there's absolutely no chance that it looked that ridiculous. All the letters connected, the I, it looks like a long L, and then the B into the U. It just looks horrible, really. And it wasn't like that. These two words were separated. So I don't know why not too many people talk about the Mandela effect. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty in our face. It affects everything, and a lot of Mandela effects I'm 100% certain of. So let me see what's next here. So this is the thumbnail for the previous live stream. I just wanted to mention a few things really quick. So after I do these live streams, like the next day or two, I like to rewatch them, and for a few reasons. One of the reasons is to check what you guys are saying in the live chat because I often miss a lot of awesome comments by you guys. You guys have a lot of interesting things to add to the conversation, and I learn from you guys. You learn from me. It's a group effort. Another reason I like to rewatch the live streams. Hey, Donut, good to see you. Is there's often like some kind of like technical glitch or buffering or stuff like that. So I just like to make sure that it's not too bad. And I noticed in the last stream, there was a lot of like popping of the P's with the microphone. So I got like this pop filter. Hey, Sun, good to see you. So hopefully there's no more of that. I know audio is important, so I got one of those, pop filters. So the P's, the pops shouldn't be quite as prevalent now. Um, and then there's also another reason why I like to watch the streams, and that's because I know it's kind of tough for some people to wrap their head around, or they don't want to admit it or whatever. But God is watching us, and He's watching these streams, and I think He's paying extra careful attention to them. And when certain things get Mandela affected, they often get Mandela affected again. So it's hey Larry, good to see you. Thank you. I appreciate that. The things often get Mandela affected again. Sorry, I have to learn how to not hit this new filter. It kind of like hangs down in a weird way. Um, so I brought up a Mandela affected logo in the last stream for an anime series called Hunter x Hunter. And what the change was before I show it was the logo is like Hunter and an X and then a Hunter under it, and the Hunter at the bottom got flipped like a mirror, so the letters are upside down now. And you could see this at 1 hour and 48 minutes in the last stream if you want to see me going over it. So I was going over, hey, Silent Shadow, good to see you, man. And I appreciate that. So if you check that time code out where I'm talking about the Hunter x Hunter logo, I'm going over it in specific detail, and it literally was Mandela affected like a day or two after the live stream, meaning, God is watching these live streams and changed something that I just talked about. And frankly, that logo is something that I don't think anyone in the world has talked about before. I mean, maybe some people in Japan have, but I don't know about it. And I know not a lot of people know about that anime who watch this channel. Some do, though. There are some anime fans. Um, but literally right after I did that stream, it changed again, and it's a small change. I mean, most of Mandela effects are small changes. But here I'll show it to you now. And one thing that's easy for me to see is when letters are straight across. So like I've seen this logo, like this anime has like over 100 episodes. I've also read the manga, so I've seen this logo hundreds of times. And I know that this logo was even across. And when I talked about it in the last stream, I only talked about this bottom hunter being mirrored because that's the only thing that was changed as far as I knew or as far as I saw. And I was carefully looking at the logo. And then when I rewatched the stream, I noticed that this H now goes up here on the left. So, I mean, in my opinion, God is watching this and he's seeing, how observant we are, how, you know, I mean, I know it's a small change, but it's a change to reality itself. Like if you have like a DVD of this show, if you have a CD of the soundtrack, if you have a poster, if you have one of the manga comic books, it's going to have this H with the longer leg on it now, or the longer left top. And it wasn't like that in the last stream. So by watching these streams and carefully observing these Mandela effects, you will literally see reality change right before your eyes. And that's what's happening. And there aren't a lot of people talking about this. Hey, Phoenix, good to see you. Thank you. And Sun, yes, the tip of the H is now longer. And I get that it's a small change, but I don't consider any change to reality to be a small change. I mean, this is the biggest thing ever. Like literally reality changed, the physical media changed. It's not just like on the internet or something. And you could see me carefully talking about this logo in the last stream, and I don't mention it because it wasn't like that. Reality changed after the last live stream, and I get that that's a tough thing for a lot of people to swallow, but that's what's going on. And I don't want to get too into what the meaning might be. I know Jay Dreamers has a lot of awesome content on what letters mean and going back to their original like glyph form. And it seems like the letter H likely means like a gate, like the Pillars of Hercules, like the gate that we see in a lot of all this other symbolism. I don't want to get overly into it, but I'm just saying that that could be one of the meanings or the meaning of this change. But I'll be getting into that in future episodes. And sorry about my voice. I'm getting over a horrible flu, so I might not have the best voice today. But I got to get these live streams done because there's just so much information I have to share with you guys. So here's another cover of one of the mangas. This character is literally named Black Lucifer, and you could see here that the H is much higher now on the left side. So this literally changed after the last live stream, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world who's even talked about this particular Mandela effect of this bottom hunter being mirrored. So right after I bring it to your guys' attention, God changes it again. So it's important to be observant and to carefully consider these Mandela effects, because when one thing changes, another change usually happens to the same thing. Doesn't always happen, but has happened many times. And personally, I've seen things get Mandela affected to stuff that I've been personally looking at. It's happened at least 50 times, probably 100 times to me. So the more you observe, the more you're interested in the Mandela effect, the more you think about it, the more you will see reality change. And it's not, glitches, it's not random, it's purposeful with meaning. And there's patterns, there's meanings, and it's very specific. It's not random. And just a quick rehash this Hunter x Hunter show because I know a lot of people aren't too familiar with it. But the main villains in the show, I don't have a picture of them, but one of them is basically like a clown jester, like serial killer type. This character here, his name is literally Black Lucifer, and this character here, his name is Meruem, like Mount Meru, and he's like the ultimate antichrist character. He has like a insect army. He has also he gathers groups of humans and basically turns them into zombies. So that's like the Kraken army of the dead. He also has like this tail with a stinger at the end, like the needle. So this. I'm just saying that this isn't just some random anime. Like the maker of this anime obviously knows the world script, and it's heavy with world script symbolism. Here's Mount Meru if you're interested. At the end of the story, the main character has to go to the top of this giant world tree, the tallest tree in the world that they know of, to meet his father. So he speaks with his father, who he's been searching for at the top of the world tree. Here he is climbing to the top of the world tree, and here he is sitting with his father finally at the end of the story. And this is us climbing to the top of the world tree to be in communication with our Father God, the Heavenly Father. And this is also a map of the Hunter x Hunter world. And as you can see, it's basically the flat map. And this is like their known world. And then outside of this known world is all this like crazy stuff. And interestingly enough, too, the closest thing to the edge of the known world is this kraken with all the tentacles and everything. And that's what I believe to be right outside the dome as well, is this kraken entity, the Leviathan. And I'll be talking about that probably a lot next live stream. So just a quick recap of the previous stream, because this is like part 2 of the symbols of the North Pole, and this isn't a conclusive list. There's a lot of things that symbolize the North Pole if you see them. So here we have the Lone Mountains. Whenever you see like the Lonely Mountain, like in the Hobbit movies or the Lord of the Rings, whenever you see just like a mountain in the middle of nowhere, that's generally a North Pole location. And like I've always said too, you don't want to just go by like one thing. Like if there's just like a lone mountain and nothing else, then who knows? Maybe it's a North Pole story, maybe it isn't. Um, let's let's get to the next one. So the Lone Island is another one. If you see an island in the middle of nowhere, and this also has like the Lone Mountain. This is from The Incredibles. A lone building in the middle of nowhere. It's usually a church, but it could be like a house, something like that. The Dark Tower. This again would be like the lone tower, the lone building in the middle of nowhere, but it's generally a dark tower to represent Rupus Nigra, which is the world that we live in, this black, satanic world of the dead, basically. I noticed too how it's surrounded by like this dartboard shape. This is another symbol of the North Pole. So when you see multiple symbols together, that's when you know that we're talking about like a North Pole centric story, which is what the world script revolves around. Number 5 was the Skull Mountain. Now, if you want to see more about these things that I'm just breezing through, then check out the previous stream because I talked about all these in depth. I'm just doing a quick recap. So whenever you see like a giant skull, or whenever you see like a mountain of skulls, something like that, it represents the North Pole because again, we're like in the realm of the dead. And X marks the spot. Whenever you see an X, that's generally representative of this North Pole area. And here we have like with the skull and crossbones, you have the skull and the X. Here in Indiana Jones, he's pointing at the X, saying X marks the spot. And what do they find under this X? This is where he finds the map basically to the Holy Grail. So they go under the North Pole Mountain at the X into the realm of the dead, basically, because there's all these, it's like a catacombs type area, dead bodies. And then he finds what's called a marker. And on that marker is the way to get to the Holy Grail, which is what we're all basically symbolically searching for. And here at the end of the Matrix trilogies, you have the giant X with like the Star of Bethlehem and the circle, and the city here makes like the 4 continents, and then these are like the 4 rivers. Here we even see too, The Economist often shows all this symbolism. So Um, this is the world ahead in 2026, and what do you see right in the middle? You have this X of the swords. So this is represents the North Pole, and here we see Trump trying to get to it. And of course, there's a ton of symbolism here, but this is basically the flat map with the North Pole in the center. That's what they're showing us, and it looks like this. So this is typical. I don't know about typical, but there's many old maps that have these four continents at the North Pole. Here we have like Greenland, the Asia, Europe, and the Americas, and inside of this circle is the North Pole, and then inside of this circle is basically a lake, and then inside of that is Rupes Nigra, the central mountain. So this is the concentric circles, like the bullseye that we often see, which is another big symbol of the North Pole. And number seven that we talked about last time was the bullseye. And they often show us this bullseye shape too. Here at the end of Get Out, they put the dartboard right above the main character's head, and he's sitting on the throne, and he's about to be body snatched. But he's a hero who, finally understands what's going on in his world, and he, basically outwits the satanic force that's trying to body snatch him, and he ends up, you know, keeping himself. And here we have The Shining, Danny playing darts. This whole location is, of course, a North Pole location. I'll talk about The Shining later too. Here's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They have the dartboard. Like the dartboards come up a ton, and I get that like a lot of people have dartboards, but you have to, you know, if you see just a dartboard, then maybe it's nothing. But if you see a dartboard and then you see an X, and then you see a lone mountain or a lone building or a lone island or some of the things that we're going to talk about in this stream, then they're talking about the North Pole. And here we have the anime Attack on Titan. This area is called literally Paradise because Paradise is at the North Pole too. And here you see the concentric circles. This is where the main characters all live. And here we have in Return of the King, the Lord of the Rings, you have the X and the circle with the dead tree. And this is where Aragorn returns as the return of the king, like the return of Jesus to the North Pole area. And here you can see the concentric circles. Also, this is also like the inverted dome, like the apex dome area, which is where Paradise would likely be. And here we have the Tron poster. These are things I've talked about before, so I'm just going quickly through them just to give you guys the idea. So here we have the concentric circles, the dome, the Star of Bethlehem rays here, the blue beam shooting up, and even this apex dome disc with the concentric circles. So you have the circles above and below, like the as above, so below symbolism. This is also a heavily Mandela affected logo. This looks ridiculous with the R. The T might even be fatter, but the R is definitely split and separated, and the N also looks like an up and down arrow or arrows. And same thing with this Tron Legacy poster, the concentric circles with the blue beam and shooting through the apex dome. And the union of male and female at the center. Their legs are also making the M shape for the Mount Meru, the mountain at the center. And this logo too is Mandela affected a little bit differently with the T going into the R and then this R separation and the N arrows. All right, so we'll start with this number 8, which will be the Mist, but I do want to check out your guys's chats real quick. And let's get some thumbs up for the stream too, please. It helps. I know like YouTube keeps it down and whatnot, but every little bit helps. Just trying to get the word out to as many people as possible. And I'm not making money off of this or anything. So let's see. Just checking out your guys' chats. Sorry, I'm still not really feeling that good, so my voice might be kind of bad, and I'm kind of tired too. I just had a horrible flu. If you missed the beginning, the last like week and a half, I've just been so sick. Um, yeah, it's hey Abraxas, good to see you. Yeah, the nano machines and the black goo and all that is definitely bad news. I don't think it's too late for people to ask God to get it taken out of their body. If you happen to have gotten the V, my advice would be to pray every day about it and ask God to remove it. It ain't over till it's over. And if you understand the Mandela effect, then you would also understand that God can alter reality throughout time. So, he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, LF. Sorry, I was about a couple weeks late on this one just because I had the flu. I couldn't. I was kind of glued to my recliner for like 10 days straight. I couldn't move. It was horrible. I hope I never get sick like that again. I definitely recommend having a bunch of like canned goods and whatever flu medication you might like. Definitely helps to have it on hand. Just checking out your guys' chats. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Crazy Cat. I appreciate that. Oh, that's awesome. Well, happy to have you here. You're very welcome. Yeah. Yeah, the flu's no joke, man. It's easy, like when you're healthy, it's like, "Oh, who cares?" But then when you actually get it, it's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm this sick." Alright, so let's get back to the presentation. Thanks, Crazy Cat. I appreciate that. Alright, so, The Mist. So Stephen King, come a lot. Him and Steven Spielberg, they're 2 of the biggest world scripters. And Stephen King literally has a book and a movie called The Mist, and The Mist is another huge, symbol of the North Pole. Um, so the mist, it's several things. One is it's kind of short for the mystery because the North Pole is the biggest mystery of the world, basically. I mean, maybe there are some others that are comparable, but um, this North Pole area it's arguably the biggest mystery of the world. So that's the mist, but also it's said to be shrouded in mist, where like if you sail a ship there, you have to sail through kind of like a perpetual storm and definitely like thick layers of mist to get there. And we often see these islands and areas in these world script movies and stories and books and things where the North Pole area is surrounded in some kind of a mist. And the mist is also symbolic too of the world storm that's going to be happening, basically the plasma apocalypse, as Jay Dreamers would call it. And when you have a storm, this creates often mist when you have two fronts colliding. And this is also the eclipsed union of fire and ice. When you mix the heat and the cold, you get like the mist and the storm. So it's all symbolic of that. And that, of course, that merging happens at the North Pole, at the center. And here we see in this poster a lot of things. I mean, you have the dome for one, and this is kind of like that H gate that I was talking about with the Hunter x Hunter. Like when you see kind of like this crossbar and the pillars, this is like the pillars of Hercules that you have to cross to get to the North Pole. This even looks kind of like a North Pole mountain here. I mean, it kind of looks like plasma tentacles and things like that. So Stephen King is showing the end of the world basically with his stories. So in the beginning of The Mist, you have the family looking out at the storm. This would be like the world tree. The father is a painter. He's painting all these different movie posters like The Thing, and this is The Dark Tower, I believe. And this, I think, is Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah, you can see it better here. This is like lightning going off, so the room is lit up more. So all these stories pertain to the plasma apocalypse, also, which is why he's showing them. And then the tree comes crashing through the glass, and whenever you see glass breaking in these stories, this is the firmament breaking. So the tree represents basically that blue beam world tree at the center of the world, and it comes crashing through the firmament, and this triggers the plasma apocalypse. So here's all the glass shooting out, and here's the main area of the village where the mist and the storm is starting to take over. And here we see it's called Monterey Village. So I look up the word Monterey, and what does Monterey mean? It means King's Mountain. So this refers to that central mountain at the North Pole. And there's a lot you can look in here. There's a lot to share here, so I'm going to kind of try to get through it a little faster. So you have the mist going over the North Pole, and this is also Kings right here. So the mist comes over, and a lot of this story takes place in this food house grocery store. So oftentimes grocery stores symbolize, I think this more so symbolizes the world itself, and then the glass outside of this place represents like the firmament essentially. So here you have all the people trapped inside the grocery store. This is like us trapped in the world. And here you can see too, they have two, three, four, five, but the three has two, so it's like the 33 gate right in the front. And then outside, you have the Kraken trying to get into the world. So here's the Kraken tentacles coming in from the mist through the gate to grab people. So these are like the people who are, being inducted essentially into the Kraken army of the dead. This guy gets pulled out of the world basically, and they're trying to save him. Here you have like the insect army on the outside of the glass, and the cracks in the glass, and here you have the beams shooting out through the glass. It's all the same symbolism in these stories. And here we have the insect army invading into the world, and they have stingers, and they sting people and kill them. And when you see people die in these stories, it's symbolic of spiritual death, not a physical death, because they're being spiritually killed by these needles, essentially. And here at the end of the movie, they're driving away. You have the cracked glass. It's also like the spider web. This would be also the dome. And of course, like we talked about too, when you have a giant spider, that represents the Kraken as well, because the legs are like the tentacles. And like in the movie Dark Tower, I've shown that scene a bunch of times where Roland is holding like a tarantula right outside the dome area. And he's saying that when the tower comes down, then these monsters will be able to get into the world, which is what's going to happen to the earth. The dome is protecting us from basically this Kraken army of monsters. And here they're driving through the mist at the end of the movie, and they look up and they see this giant Cthulhu monster. And this Cthulhu entity is basically the Kraken as well. And H.P. Lovecraft, of course, popularized the Cthulhu name for it. And my understanding, I haven't read any of his books, but my understanding of it is that basically it psychically influences people, which is what I think is going on, which is what I think all this body snatching has been about, where this Cthulhu Kraken Leviathan entity that's outside of the dome, it's basically psychic. It's not able to get into our world yet until the dome comes down, but it is able to psychically influence people. And this is when someone gets like body snatched. And I think through means like CERN and what they're doing there, they're like somehow able to open up portals to outside of the dome, perhaps to get little pieces of this Kraken. And then that's probably what's been in the V, and I think they also probably disperse it through the air and maybe the food and the water and all that. And I wouldn't be scared about it. I think it's a necessary part for our evolution. I think we all have basically a little bit of it in us. If you People who got the V though, I think they got a bunch of stuff that's going to make it basically impossible for them to communicate with God and to receive God when Jesus returns. They're going to be receiving this, Kraken instead, because there's a lot that's in the V that isn't just that. Um, but like I said, I wouldn't be scared of it. I think it's all part of God's plan. It's all something that is necessary for our evolution. And what we have to do is be so spiritually bright and powerful that we conquer that darkness. And that's how we fully evolve into into the humans that we're supposed to be in the future in paradise. So here we have Cthulhu. This is also a Mandela effect. The letter H was not at the end of this name. I had seen it spelled with a C and with a K, but I've never seen it spelled with an H here. It was always just ULU. Um, so it's just another thing to think about. I've talked about it before, but sorry, my voice is kind of bad today. So here we have Stranger Things. This is the X building. It has the communications towers at the top, and this is where the Kraken comes from in the Stranger Things show. This is where they open up the portal between dimensions, basically, and they even call the upper dimension the abyss. And things are also inverted and flipped sometimes, so you have to use your own judgment on that. I think things invert in this world as well, so it could very well be that right now what's essentially paradise and the blue beam charging is underground, and then the abyss, or the, the place that you don't want to be, is actually at the top, and things might, flip when this, you know domesday, happens. But anyway, at the beginning of the story, this character Will, he's riding his bike, and the bike is symbolic of the eclipse with the two wheels of the same size, like the sun and the moon. And he's riding his bike right past this X facility, and he sees this kraken monster coming out of the mist, and see all the mist behind him and all that in the forest. And then here he sees the kraken basically in his own mind's eye, or third eye. And here we have the kraken again coming out of this mist, and this is like, it's like the kraken over the dome, and then it invades his body, and body snatches him. And in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, they have to cross the Misty Mountains. So this is the MM, and it's also the mist. And this also represents, of course, the North Pole Mountain. And Saruman stands on top of the Black Tower, creating this gigantic storm. And then the heroes can't conquer the storm, so they have to go under the mountain into the realm of the dead, just like I talked about with Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where he has to go under the North Pole Mountain to the realm of the dead. And this is where the characters learn the truth of the world. This is symbolically basically where we've been at. We've been in this realm of the dead, and we've been learning the truth of the world in this place. So here we have the Dark Tower also. This is called Isengard, where Saruman lives. And he's turned the beautiful paradise forest area with all the old trees and all that into a land of, like, metal and war and destruction. And this is the world that we live in. All right, so Wonder Woman, she's doing her sword in the stone pose with the mirror and all that. And it says at the beginning of the movie, they show Zeus, and he's representative of Jesus in this case. She says her mother's telling her like a bedtime story, basically. And I talked about this before, but she says Zeus left us a weapon, one powerful enough to kill a god with his dying breath. And here's the North Pole Mountain where they live. And then it says Zeus created this island to hide us from the outside world. So now he puts a small dome over the North Pole area, and this is likely what will happen too when the plasma apocalypse happens, where we have this giant dome that surrounds the Earth, and when that dome comes down, there will be a smaller dome that's put over the North Pole area, and that's like where Paradise will be, and that's essentially the camp of the saints that the Kraken army of the dead is going to try to invade. And then once this dome is put over the mountain, and Ares in this case is symbolic of like the Antichrist character. So once this dome is put over the mountain is hidden in the mist. And here we have her mother and her. They're making the M handhold, even though she's short, but this is the M handhold. And I'll talk about that later too. And you also have like the dome, the twin pillar symbolism there in paradise. And the mother even puts her arms out like a Christ pose. And she says, "We give thanks to the gods for giving us this paradise." And when they talk about paradise, they're talking about the area at the North Pole. And here they are in paradise, hidden in the mist. And here they go to the sword and the stone with the plasma kind of sheath all around it, and the portal, the O portal above it. And they're also making the M handhold here too, walking to the sword and the stone. Here's the sword that she gets later in the movie. And then once she has this sword, she's fighting the Antichrist character. So he basically represents this Ares Antichrist character, and then she represents like the Zeus Christ character. And he's looking up at her, and she does the Christ pose, and she has the blue plasma surrounding her. And then she crosses her arms like an X, and then she fires the blue beam. Now it's going down in this case. When this happens, the blue beam will shoot up, so they often, invert things and play around with angles and things like that. But she's representative of the blue beam firing at, the apex dome, essentially. So if you just flip this, this program isn't, this program, this image viewer just doesn't have a good, many tools to it. But if you flip this image, what you're basically seeing is the apex dome shooting from the Earth through the what you see is the blue beam shooting from the Earth through the apex dome. Sorry, I'm still pretty sick. I'm not that sick anymore, but I'm getting better. But it's still a little not the way I usually am. So here in this movie, Damsel, there's a lot going on with this movie. This is like a Netflix movie, and it to me, like this movie was basically designed to show us all this world script symbolism. Here we have the dragon and the eclipse and the left eye and all that. And in order to get to the island that they have to go to, that the most of the movie takes place, they have to travel, and their ship has to go through this very dense mist on the ocean to get there. And they even talk about being really far up north. And then they cross this bridge to get to the mountain castle once they get there. So here you have the castle that represents the North Pole, the bridge that represents, getting to the North Pole, and then also this giant black mountain in the background, which represents Rupus Negro as well. And here you can see the king and his men heading towards the misty Black Mountain, Rupus Nigra. And in this show, Naruto, which is on the thumbnail, this is a Mandela effect too with the extended R. All these letters used to just be uniform. And there's a ton of characters in this show. So the show revolves around like five ninja villages, and one of the villages is the village hidden in the mist. So here we have the Misty Village, and from this village comes this character whose name is Kisame. So he's got the key in his name, and he's basically a shark human, and he's also known as the monster of the mist. And he does like all kinds of like shark related things and moves and stuff like that. And this character represents this shark, Jaws, on the chalkboard of the I Pet Goat video that we're all probably familiar with. And this Jaws shark represents this because if they had this symbol, it would just be too obvious. But it's kind of like a little inverted symbol, and it represents a bunch of other things too. Let me see if I have it. So I mean, like I've talked about this before, but like if you look up, what the name Fauci means, it literally translates to Jaws. And there's a lot of symbolism with the shark if you're paying attention to it. Like the shark in Back to the Future, it's called Jaws 19, like CV 19 and stuff like that. But this character that I'm going to show you guys here, and this is really interesting too. This character Kisame, he represents this shark out of the Mist Village, out of the North Pole, and this is, like also like the Ovid's Metamorphosis, because this is what's, basically spurning our evolution. And this everything on this chalkboard is about evolution. I don't know if I have it, but you guys are probably familiar with it, but the hangman here has the word evolution right next to him, and above on top of the chalkboard, they show the human evolving from the ape and becoming enlightened and all that. So it's all about evolution. So in Naruto, there's another character, this black guy called Killer Bee, and Killer Bee has like two main fights in the show. One of them versus I know this is going to be kind of tough to follow if you're not familiar with the show, but it gets really interesting. So he fights this character called Sasuke, and he also fights Kisame. And these two fights are on purpose because this is all world script related. So when they first introduced this Killer Bee character, he is found at the Misty Mountains. So this is just like Lord of the Rings, the Misty Mountains. He's found at the North Pole, and he's in this dark, like abyssal area training. And he basically, while he looks like a man, he's also a giant octopus. So he represents the Kraken. And then this giant octopus, kind of molds, like shapeshifts basically into him. So he comes out of this mountain gate, and he even calls himself the bridge. I kind of forget exactly why, but it's interesting. And notice too how he has the yellow and blue coloring as well. And what he has too as his weapons are he has 8 swords that he uses. So these are like representative of the needles, and his name is Killer Bee, like the stinging, like we saw with like in the mist. So whenever you see like stingers, things like that, that represents the needle. So here he is holding all his needles, and keep in mind too that he's a giant kraken entity. So here he is facing this Sasuke character at the Misty Mountain. This is the North Pole. And Sasuke, in this case, represents the blue beam. So this is what we often see um, in these stories is the blue beam versus the Kraken. So Sasuke's power is like all this blue plasma, and this move that he's doing is called the Thousand Birds. And the blue beam is often represented too by like a bluebird, or like, you know, thousands of bluebirds all at the same time. And one of the reasons why his move is called Thousand Birds is because it like makes like a chirping sound, and this sound is also something that the blue beam plasma will make. And there's another name for his move too, called the lightning cutter. So we have the lightning and we have the birds and all this blue beam symbolism. And they even go so far as to put spotlights down onto him and his sword. So it's showing this like beam symbolism. So we have like the blue beam plasma here, and we have the blue beam sword here. And this isn't something they normally do in the show with this spotlight thing. It's for this symbolism to compare the two things. And then when their swords meet, they form an X, and he discovers that this Killer Bee character is also his power is also like a lightning based plasma power, because the Kraken is also like a plasma entity. So it's like plasma versus plasma, and you know, he puts all the, you know, he stabs Sasuke a bunch of times. He says like eight tails like stings like a bee, and this character is trying to help Sasuke, and he's saying that, oh, this guy also uses lightning style, which is his weakness. So here now, this guy is starting to turn into this giant Kraken monster, and you see these giant tentacles coming out of him. And he also says that he'll annihilate people. Now, this word annihilate is also a Mandela effect. It definitely used to have just one N, and we also see this word come up. There's like even a movie called Annihilation, which with Natalie Portman, who's another big world script actress. And I've talked about that before. I'm not going to talk about it here, but that movie Annihilation is loaded with world script stuff, where they go to a lighthouse, which represents the North Pole location, and it's got all these like tentacles and things all over it. And she's faced with her doppelganger, and she gets body snatched, and it's just, you know, all the same symbolism. And he also says he's a monster, and he's not just an octopus. I always found this to be really weird back when I watched this show before I knew any of this stuff. So he calls it a host transformation, and then he looks like this. So he's not just a giant octopus; he's also a giant ox, or like a bull-headed, like, you know, entity. So he's a combination of this bull and the octopus. So this represents the Kraken and that apex dome area. And here he's fighting the guy who was complaining about the lightning style, and this guy makes a giant dome. So here we have the giant Kraken entity right outside the dome, and this is also like the spiked ball too as well. So then in this other fight that this Killer Bee has, he fights that Kisame shark character. And let's see if I have this. So there's also a raccoon, this giant raccoon. A raccoon is an anagram for Corona and all that. He does the devil horn symbol often, because that represents the apex dome, this red plasma, the red shield, like the Rothschild, the red Kraken plasma that's shielding paradise, basically. This is like the flaming sword that people can't get through, at least not yet, not until the blue beam shoots through it. And then you could see his red chakra tails. So he's got the red plasma, basically. And he's about to fight this Kisame character. So he's saying, you know, octopi eat sharks. And Kisame is like, well, this time the shark will devour the octopus. So again, we have this CV versus, you know, Kraken fight again. And one of the things that this Kisame character does is he creates a giant dome for them to fight inside of. And this dome is filled with water, because his like main thing is like water and sharks and all that. So he basically turns into like this shark monster. And here you can see them fighting inside of this dome. So you have like the Kraken versus the shark inside of the dome. And you could see his tentacles wrapping around the shark. And he's saying, you seem to be having trouble breathing. So this is another big symbol. So we have the black character who can't breathe. And this happens many, many times. Like in Event Horizon, the black character comes in from the outside, and he takes his helmet off, and he's like, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And you'll see, if you keep it in mind, you'll see it many times. I have a video all about communication and breathing. Um, and it's the "I can't breathe" thing. It's twofold because everything has like a duality to it. So for the people who are being body snatched by the Kraken, they can't breathe because they have the tentacles around their throat, symbolically. And this is like the Alien movies where they have like the face hugger, where the tentacle wraps around people's throats where they can't breathe. Um, and things like that. But then also the people who are becoming more Christ-like and evolving spiritually, we also have trouble breathing because we're climbing the mountain, and as you climb a mountain, of course, it becomes more difficult to breathe too. So in both situations, basically everyone's having a difficult time breathing, like I am right now. So this Kisame character, so Killer B, he's basically passing out because he can't breathe, and um, the Kisame even calls this the shark dance jitsu. So this word dance comes up a lot. I'm not going to get into it now, but it's just something to keep in mind. I also have a video about it's called the rain dance of the Mandela effect, and many Mandela effects revolve around the word dance. And it's a big part of the world script. You'll often see characters dancing in these movies. There's almost always like some kind of dance number, or someone dancing, someone talking about dancing. Even when they have like a fight, like a martial arts fight or a sword fight or something, somebody will say like "Let's dance" or something like that. So here we have, in a last ditch effort, this Kraken character. He shoots out the black goo. So here we have the black cloud of smoke going over the shark, and then the dome fills up with black goo. This is ink. It's a smoke screen, and here we have the giant black goo dome that pops. There's actually a lot more to these fights I can get into. I just know a lot of people don't really know this story, but maybe in the future I'll do like some kind of special on it. But it's really interesting. Like every little detail of these fights are all based on the world script. Um, so here he cracks the dome. He's about to kill him with a sword, and then what happens here is we have this character shooting what's basically the blue beam at this shark character. So here we have the blue beam shooting through the tree. And like I said, I don't want to get overly into it. Long story short, the reason why this character has the blue and yellow symbolism is because while he does have the Kraken in him, he's actually won the Kraken over. And it's not, it actually, people like think that it is body snatched him or that, it controls him, but it's actually not. And he's actually like won the Kraken over and become an evolved human. So it's very complicated, but it's also very interesting. All right, so this video game, Metal Gear Solid 5. This is a Mandela effect, first of all. This A here was a normal A. Same with this A. I don't remember all these letters being so jagged, and the D was definitely not split, and the V was also not split like this. So this is a game I played back. It came out in 2015. And here you can see, this is another poster for it with the split V here. It wasn't like this. I clearly remember the V going straight down over his head. So that's interesting. And here we have, the mask symbolism and all that. And basically in this game, you play as basically a godlike character who's creating this mother base on the ocean. So here we have like the island in the middle of nowhere, and he's creating it, and it's kind of like Kraken tentacles too. It's like all like the whole base is like built out with like these arms, and it's like this giant like Kraken looking like Hydra, like the Hydra symbol in the Captain America movies, stuff like that. So here's another poster for the game. And what you could see here is these balloons. What you do is, as you're playing the game, you're recruiting people to go to this mother base. So they call it Fulton Extraction, which is actually in one of the Batman movies too. And what you do is, if you see a soldier that you take out, like say you put him to sleep with like a tranquilizer dart or something, if you see that he has like good like specs, like he's like a powerful soldier or something, you can literally tie this balloon thing to him and then shoot him up into the air, and then someone comes by with a jet and picks him up, and then you can recruit him to be in at your base. So what you're seeing here is, I think I have more. All right, so yeah, so this is like when someone's actually playing the game. So he knocked out these two soldiers, and you attach this balloon to him and shoot him up into the air. And again, this is called Fulton extraction. So what you're basically seeing here is this God character is rapturing people who he deems worthy to go to his paradise base, his North Pole base. And here's like another shot of someone being basically raptured. So this is like people going up in like the blue beam, basically. And here, I don't know if you can see it. This is like a little GIF image of what it looks like in the game when you're playing it. Yeah. So it's actually a really fun thing to do. So you basically attach these balloons to people, and then they just shoot up straight up into the air, and then you find them later at your mother base North Pole location. And it's very similar to this scene in This Is the End, I think it's called. So this is a comedy movie. They frame it as a comedy, and they have all these people shooting up in these blue beams into the sky. So this is like meeting Jesus in the air. And these are all the people that get raptured right before the plasma apocalypse happens. And then the main characters of the story, they're basically a bunch of jerks and they're left behind and they have to deal with the plasma apocalypse. It's actually a really interesting movie if you don't mind like R-rated stuff. Because they frame it all as a comedy, so they often show us, the truth in comedy form. And I'm not saying it's necessarily going to look exactly like this, but maybe it will. But also, what's interesting too is that Fulton extraction. I looked up what the name Fulton means, and this is going to come up later in the presentation too, if I can get to it. But it basically means the settlement of the birds, like a fowl town. So what's interesting about that too is we're often described as birds in these symbolic world script stories. For starters, the word bird equals 33, but it's also an animal that flies. And there's a ton of Mandela effects too, where God is basically telling us to fly. And I have like if you want to check that out, I have keywords of the Mandela effect videos, which one of them is fly. And there's also, high, fly high, the highest mountain. These are recurring keywords in the Mandela effect. Now, this is really crazy. So, at the end of this Metal Gear video game, you have to fight this gigantic robot, and it's all about evolution again. Because in these Metal Gear games, this is the fifth one. Um, the Metal Gear robot that you had to fight, it's always been like on the ground and like a tank, and it keeps getting, more and more evolved to the point where this one that you fight is basically just walking around like a giant human. And it's called the Sahelanthropus, like one of the evolutionary, phases. So this is the final boss of the game, and when you're fighting this robot, it literally takes you through like every move that it has is something that relates to the plasma apocalypse and to all this world script symbolism. So like here you have like the communication towers, like so it's not a coincidence that you're fighting it basically on top of a mountain with all these communication towers. This is what we see in Stranger Things and tons of stuff. There's always it's all about communication with God or with the Antichrist, depending on who you're tuned to. So here he's looking through the scope. I just took some quick clips from someone's YouTube video. So he's got the plasma sword. That's one of his main things. And when he smashes the plasma sword down onto the ground, all these like stalagmites come up from the ground. And this is a lot like what Jay Dreamers often talks about, where when the plasma apocalypse happens, this is what forms a lot of these crazy shapes around the world, where the ground literally gets pulled up into the air. And here, it's kind of hard to see, but the main character here is running, and these stalagmite things are all shooting up out of the ground. Here you can see a better view of it, like these big spiky things. And this is like, if you go to a desert, like in the southwest of the United States, you'll see these, giant formations all over the place. Like the ground has literally been pulled up into the air. And then he also has like this phallic like fire, like a flamethrower, because the world is going to be destroyed in fire. And it's also like the fire is like the masculine, basically. Like, so the fire would be like the left masculine pillar, and the ice would be the right feminine pillar. And then when those two pillars, collide, this creates the storm and the eclipse and all that at the North Pole. So here we have the fire that destroys the earth. And this gets really crazy. So he also shoots the rockets that come out like the plasma, smoke crack and tentacles. And he also has an army of drones. So here's the drone army. This is like the Kraken army of the dead, basically. Drones have a lot of implications, and there's also been huge news stories about drones, like the drones over New Jersey, and I've covered that too. So here's like the main character shooting all these drones out of the air. Now here's where it gets like really crazy. So he this main robot, it unleashes this canister that literally changes the sky from blue to red. So now under the red sky, this is the plasma apocalypse happening. This is what's going to happen to the Earth. This is why people are going to think that they're on Mars at a certain point, because the sky is going to turn red, and that's what happens in this fight. So here you see the character running around with the red sky, and you could also see these plumes of smoke coming down. And this is like the Kraken tentacles that are going to be coming down onto the Earth during this plasma apocalypse when the sky turns red after the dome goes away. And here we have the main character running around. I think it's just more to show you guys the smoke tentacles coming down. Again, you could see that this is like what the plasma apocalypse is going to look like, basically. And to top it all off, he also has this giant gun on his back that creates this huge plasma charge. And when he fires it at you, it's hard to see here because everything's red, but it's I have a better picture of it coming up. But his like main weapon is basically the blue beam. It's a giant blue beam of plasma that he shoots at you. That's like a one shot, kill situation. So here, this is when the sky isn't red, and he's charging up the blue beam and he shoots it. So here you see like his main weapon is literally the blue beam. So like every weapon that this robot, shoots at you and everything, it's all representative of this plasma apocalypse scenario. And then it's also revealed at the end of the story that this giant robot is being piloted by this psychic Kraken character. So like his name is Psycho Mantis, and he's basically like a body snatcher, psychic influencer essentially. And he's given these like long sleeves on his like straitjacket like thing because this is representative of the Kraken tentacles as well, and he's also wearing a mask. And the other main villain in this story is Skullface, and he represents like the Skull Mountain, basically. And when you go to face him, you literally have to climb up this like giant mountain, and you have to go up these spiraling staircase and all that. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring up Metal Gear 2 is because he has this unit of soldiers that are basically body snatched, hive mind uh, zombies, and they're called the Skulls. And this, of course, represents the from the Skull Mountain from the North Pole as well. And they have like three units, and one of the units is the Mist unit. And when you fight the Mist unit of skulls, it creates this giant thick mist. And then you have to fight these like zombie skull characters inside of this giant mist where you could barely see anything. And also, while this is going on, it's hard to see, but these little particulates, these are all nanoparticles, like what's in, the V, and I think what's in the air and all that. So, like, this game came out in 2015. The guy who made it, his name is Hideo Kojima, and he's basically thought of as like the Stanley Kubrick of video games. And I mean, these people, they know the world script. I mean, it's like so crazy. Like if we had any kind of real, legal system, they would question these people. Like, how can you possibly predict the future? Like this whole game is about like turning people into like a zombie army with the V's. There's like constant needles. There's constant black goo. There's like it's like unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. But like I remember when I first played this game, I just thought it was a good game. It was fun, and I didn't really think about the story much. And then I replayed it fairly recently, and it was like unbelievably eye opening. Just like every mission, every battle, everything that you do in the game, every line of dialogue, it's like literally just all world script, all things that ended up, coming true in the future and will come true also, like a lot of these world script elements, they've already, come true. Like the empty cities, that was a big one, and that came true in 2020. We had empty cities everywhere. All right, so let me get with the chat here. Moving on to number 9. That missed one might be the longest one, but I just wanted to show you guys all that crazy stuff. Yeah, just checking in with the chat. Yeah, it's good to see you guys. Yeah, I was blown away by that Metal Gear game. It's amazing how like you could watch a movie or read a book or play a video game like 10 years ago and then rewatch it or reread it or whatever. And it's like reading a totally different story. It's unbelievable with our new, spiritual eyes and ears. Hey, unindoctrinated. Good to see you, man. I don't wish talking to Phoenix here. Maybe I didn't read all the everything in the chat here, but he's basically saying now you know and always will know, but kind of wish you didn't. I don't wish I didn't know. I'm glad I know, but it is a tough world for sure. Yeah, I agree, Skyfish. I think that there's literally a script and that they know the script. And maybe some people know more of it than others, but people like Hideo Kojima, people like Steven Spielberg and Stephen King, especially people like James Gunn. There's a lot of Hollywood directors, of course, who know it. Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan. Um, there's a lot of people. Yeah, Matt Groening, he knows it. How exactly they know it? Maybe these people are literally shape shifting fallen angels. Maybe they're just normal people who are in a secret society, and since they're excellent artists, they're brought into a secret group where it's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Maybe they don't know it, but they're given these scripts for their projects, and their handler or whoever gives them the script, and it's like, okay, and this, you have to have a black goo and a needle, and you have to have a dome, and then the dome comes down, and you have to have this Kraken character, and then everything else, is up to you. You could be however creative you want, but you have to have all these specific things. It could be like that too. It's hard to know exactly what people know. But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, the world script is definitely in all these things, and they came out sometimes decades before the events actually took place. Especially the V and the CV and the Pan event and all that. All right, so the world tree. Basically, there's two versions of the world tree. One is when it looks, beautiful and lively like this. This is when Jesus has returned. And then you'll also see it when it's a dead world tree. Sometimes it's just a stump that's cut off. Sometimes it's just a normal tree with branches, but there's no leaves on it, that type of thing. And that's the world that we've been living in, the world of the dead. So we're, waiting for this tree to come back to life. Um, and in this case, this is the end of the movie Knowing, where the kids, this is like the new Adam and Eve, they're brought to this paradise area by these blue beam crystal vessels, these ships. And they arrive on this area, which is like the field of wheat, kind of. And then they run towards the world tree. And here's the poster for that movie Knowing. It's got the eclipse. Nicolas Cage's name is a Mandela effect. There used to be an H here. And of course, Nicholas and Cage are very symbolic names. Also, I'm not so sure, but I think the I was always a one, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It looks kind of weird here. So that might be something, but it's all about this coded messaging. So I think it was always a one, but just to bring it up. This is also like they're showing the Earth, but it's like the apex dome, inverted dome symbolism with the red plasma all around it. So in Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, of course, a ton of symbolism here. I've talked about this. This is like the sword and the stone symbolism with the Christ character. And here at Gondor, in the main area, they have the dead tree. So they're waiting for the return of the king. So this is before Jesus' return. This is the world that we're living in now. And then when Aragorn returns, I think he like plants a new tree or something like that in the book, to regrow, this world tree that's, descended from these super powerful trees in the past, which are basically described as beams of light, because what they're really talking about is the blue beam. And this area that they're in has the concentric circles, and it has the X, and it has the concentric dome imagery and the lone castle, and I showed this before too with the X and the circle and all that. It's also the sword symbolism. And in the Book of Eli, at the end of the story, the main characters arrive at this lone house in the middle of nowhere, and it's all dilapidated and run down because this is the um, symbolic of the North Pole area. So we also have the A tower here, symbolic of like the third eye. This could also be like the conjunction symbolism with the big wheel and the small wheel, and of course the dead tree. It looks like there's a birdhouse in the tree too. That's interesting. And Close Encounters, of course. This looks like the giant cut off, dead world tree where the whole, you know, uh, climax of the movie takes place. This would be like the apex dome area with the people, going to paradise at the top of the mountain that looks like a tree. In the new It movies, the house that the Pennywise clown lives at, or he lives below the North Pole area here. But this is like the dilapidated house, like in the Book of Eli, but they also have the dead world tree right in the front as well. And when when the kids go inside the house, they find this well. So this is like the well down to the abyss. All right, and going back to Naruto, at the culmination of the story, they have the giant world tree in the center with the concentric circles, and its roots look like the kraken tentacles. It looks like a big octopus, basically. And let me minimize this. I know it gets cut off a little bit. But the main villain of the story, or one of the main villains, he basically casts a spell on the blood moon, and he puts the entire world under a spell. And here you can see this is like the flat shape of the earth with the dead world tree in the center and the concentric circles. And this is basically the apex dome at the top that's casting a spell over the whole world. So this is that, Kraken red plasma that's been, brainwashing people and body snatching people. And this is all about everyone, basically everyone except a few of the main heroes get body snatched, the entire world, and they get wrapped up in these cocoons. And it's because this Antichrist Kraken character is building an army out of all these spiritually dead people. And I've talked about that before too. So I have several videos about like, the North Pole area and body snatching and all that, if you want to check it out. And this is pretty interesting. This is Jerry Bruckheimer's main like logo that he shows before his films, and he's of course another big world scripter. You can even kind of see like a skull up here, but you have the plasma. You have like the road that is shaped like the pyramidal mountain at the center of the world, and then here we have the plasma storm, and then he focuses on this dead tree, and then the tree gets zapped by lightning, the plasma apocalypse, and then it gets turned into the living world of the tree, or the living world tree. So it's actually a very positive symbol, whatever this guy Jerry Bruckheimer really is in real life or not. This is definitely a positive symbolic message here. And in the movie The Giver that we've talked about, of course, we got the dome and the eclipse, and the main character that represents us, whether you're a man or a woman. And this character is having his memories restored by the God character under the dome. And here we have like the mirror symbolism and all that. And at where he meets with this God character, who's played by Jeff Bridges, who often plays a God character, they meet at this house in the middle of nowhere. So it represents the North Pole. You have the dome window here at the bottom, and then you have all this mist, and it's all surrounded in mist. And when he goes to meet with him, they look through this dome window, and he's looking out the dome window here, and he sees this tree out in the middle of nowhere. So this all represents the North Pole, and it's a small tree because this is the resurgence, the rebirth of the blue beam of the world tree at the central North Pole. And here in Chronicles of Narnia, again, this is huge symbolic C.S. Lewis story. The lion and this Prince Caspian, I think, both represent Jesus, basically, especially the lion. And at the end of the movie, they have this huge, stage that they're all on with the world tree. And this world tree actually opens up into a portal, and people can go home. And home is a word for paradise through this portal. And here we have the Percy Jackson movies. These are, again, heavily symbolic. We have all this dome symbolism going on with the plasma apocalypse to the Dark Tower and all that. I think this is will be the second movie. Okay, I just have a few posters here. So again, we have like the pyramidal mountain, the sword, the kraken tentacle, and all that. The quest continues. So yeah, at the end of the second movie, they place this. This is the what's it called? Oh, the golden fleece, which is all about resurrection, which is symbolic of Jesus. And they place this golden fleece at the base of this tree because they're basically in the camp of the saints. This is even called like camp like half blood or something. And and their barrier went down. Like they had like a dome barrier that went over this place. So they placed this resurrection fleece at the base of the tree, and then the tree lights up like the blue beam, and then it shoots out this its protective dome again, like that goes over the camp of the saints at the North Pole. And Captain America, I've talked about this a lot, but here we have the Hydra. This is the Kraken, the Leviathan. That is the enemy force. And at the beginning of the movie, the main Hydra villain goes to this mural of the World Tree. Might be a little dark, but you have like the dome and the World Tree and the pyramidal mountain at the center. And here's all the roots of the World Tree. Here's a little bit closer view of it. And then from under the World Tree, he gets the blue beam. So it's like the Hydra stealing the blue beam from under the tree. These are all just World Tree examples in all these World Script stories. So the Shawshank Redemption, this is a Stephen King story, of course. I've talked about this a lot too. And at the end of the movie, Red, who used to be spiritually dead, he's basically resurrected by Andy, who's Andy's light and his powerful positive influence. Resurrected Red from that spiritually dead prison that he was in, and he goes to the North Pole tree and he gets the black rock. He takes the black rock away at the North Pole, and under the black rock, he basically finds directions to paradise. So this is also the same thing that you see in Indiana Jones, and like the Last Crusade scene that I showed you at the beginning of the live stream, where under the X they go under the mountain and they find the truth, and not only do they find the truth, but they find the path to the Holy Grail, to paradise. And in this case, in the Shawshank Redemption, he finds the path to that Zihuatanejo place, which actually, if you look up what Zihuatanejo means, it means the land of the goddess women, which is Amazonia, which is like the Wonder Woman island at the North Pole, it's all the same symbolism. And this again is a Stephen King story, so he knows all this. All right, so this is going to be really crazy. I don't know if a lot of you guys are familiar with this movie, Akira. It came out in 1988. It's basically the movie that put like anime on the map for the world. Um, it's arguably the most popular, famous anime movie ever made. And just like wait till you see what's in this. It's really crazy. Just one second. So, of course, something that would be arguably the biggest anime movie ever would be filled with world script symbolism, of course. So notice how it takes place in 2019. This is when the CV started. They also have the pill, the medicine as a big symbol. It's also on his back here. There's another poster for it. You got like the kraken tentacles over the dome, basically. There's even like way more in this movie that I'm going to get into here, but it's just so crazy. And here we have like the black goo dome with the opening at the top. This is like the apex dome here. Oh man. So the very beginning of the story takes place in 1988, and this is when an atom bomb goes off. So here again we have the 88 symbolism with the atom bomb. That's very typical in these stories. 88 is also the HH, which would be like the pillars of Hercules. And the movie starts out with this giant atom bomb dome that goes off. And then it says 31 years later in 2019. So this is like the main villain of the story. He basically gets like this telekinetic power. And here you can see like the Vesica Pisces, basically. He creates like two domes that are merging here in the center. Here he's walking out of the belly of the beast into this area that has the world tree. And look how crazy this is. So, like, in this room, you have, all this, like, symbolism on the walls and all these, like, murals and paintings and things. And, then you have the concentric circles above. This is, all the apex dome symbolism. So what you're seeing is basically the blue beam under the apex dome. This is, of course, a North Pole location in the story. So here you have, like, the flying ships, the, the moon landing stuff. It's like the moon room, you can call it. Also the, Snow White symbolism with the dwarves and the castle on top of the mountain and all that. And, I don't wanna get too into it because it's just a lot, but there's these, like, really old children characters who are, like, controlling things behind the scenes, and they're under this dome, and the dome cracks, as you could see here. Here the dome breaks. You have the X symbolism. This is, like, the hero coming, and, when the dome breaks, everything gets sucked up into this apex dome, which is something that Jay Dreamers often talks about too, where it's like a reversal of the gravity phenomenon. Call it what you want, but it goes. Everything's getting sucked up into this apex dome portal. Here we have the bridge being destroyed. Here we have the X and the concentric circles. And then what happens is the main villain goes to this stadium where this is actually Olympic Stadium. So Olympic is like Mount Olympus. Whenever you see like something that's like Olympic in the name, and that's going to come up later in this presentation too. But this is like where they had like the Tokyo Olympics, so they call it Olympic Stadium. So he's at the North Pole. So these are two different North Pole locations in the same story. Then he sits on this throne here, and this stuff behind him in the jars. This is like stuff that was gathered from the atom bomb in 1988, and I don't want to get overly into that right now either, because the atom bomb is like its own live stream basically. But so the main villain Tetsuo, he sits on the throne at the Olympic Stadium, and here's all the tentacles coming out of him and all that. So he represents the Kraken, and when he's basically trying to destroy the world, they shoot him with this giant blue beam. And here you can see the blue beam goes all the way up into the sky, and here they are in the blue beam. Here's the blue beam shooting through the apex dome, and the blue beam is actually coming from this satellite that's called Sol 74, and SOL. This is like the sun, the Statue of Liberty. Like possible like Lucifer symbolism. You also have the star up here, and 74 is an interesting number too because something that Jurassic Liars channel talks about. If you guys are familiar with him, the name Jesus and the name Lucifer both equal 74. So that's a very interesting like mirror symbolism between the two of them. And here we have all the blue beams going through the sky. Blue beams. All right, and Attack on Titan. This is another anime I've talked about. This is Mandela affected. These A's didn't used to look like this. This is they turn into these delta shapes. The T's are connected. And here we have like the giant monster over the barrier, basically. But here, at the end of the story, it all revolves around this giant world tree plasma blue beam area. So I don't want to get like too into it. I'm just saying these are all examples of the world tree. And then I'm showing you some other things just to show you that it's not just the world tree in these stories. It's like in Akira, there's just so many things. So in this new Tron Ares movie, here you have like, of course, the blue beam, but it's also kind of like the Rainbow Bridge. Here's Jeff Bridges again, is playing the God character. They often have the same actors play the same types of roles because it's like reinforcing of this like spellcraft. And his name is also Bridges, and the term bridge is going to come up here soon too. So the blue beam is just constantly in this movie, and it's all about resurrection because Ares, he's only allowed to live for a certain amount of time, and then he dies and comes back to life, and he's always resurrected right in front of this giant blue beam. And they also have another scene where they have this blue beam laser, and they're constructing something from this blue beam laser, and it's a tree. So again, with the relation of the tree and the blue beam. And here you can see the tree being constructed, and the tree has fruit. And these Shazam movies, I actually watched these recently for the first time, and I was like blown away by these movies. Like, if you want to just like watch a couple of movies that are just like endless world script symbolism, Watch these 2 Shazam movies. It's, like, unbelievable how much is in these 2 movies. But long story short, they're at a stadium here, like that Akira movie, and they have a giant world tree. Here we have like the dragon going over the tree. This is like the dome symbolism and the kraken over the dome, and tons of just blue beam symbolism all over the place. So here we have the blue beam versus the dragons. This is basically the blue beam versus the kraken. And Lucy Liu, her name is Lucy Liu. Like, so you have the LL, you also have the Lucy for Lucifer. She's pretty much the main villain of the story of the second movie, and she rides around on a dragon. And we have the blue beam here firing up into the sky. They also put a giant dome over the whole city, and then the dome gets smaller too. So that's what I was talking about before too, where there's like a dome over the Earth, but then when that comes down, there's going to be a smaller dome over the North Pole area. So that exact scenario actually happens in this movie. And then here at the end of the movie, so at the end of the movie, they have I think Shazam like dies, and then he's buried at this world tree basically, and then he comes. Yeah, I don't have it here, but he comes back to life. So he's resurrected at the giant world tree, and this is also he's also resurrected by Wonder Woman. So that they're playing on, it's all these same symbols, all these same characters in these movies. It's just this constant reinforcement of all this world script symbolism and just the same characters, the same actors. And again, with the resurrection at the World Tree, like we saw in what's it called, Percy Jackson, where they put the fleece on the World Tree and that resurrects the blue beam as well. And at the end of the movie, they have these credits. I'll talk about Shazam again because there's just so much stuff in it. It's crazy. It kind of deserves its own live stream, frankly. But here they show like the Kraken with the gate and all the tentacles and all that. They show the this is just like the end credits where they just show random things to the audience, but it's all heavily world script symbolic. Like the tree under the snow globe dome, which is just like this Nordic depiction of not, I wouldn't say the world, I would say that this is really the North Pole. So you have the mountainous region that surrounds the North Pole, you have the plasma snake that surrounds the North Pole, the plasma barrier, you have the giant world the giant mountain at the center, of course, and the world tree going up to the top of the dome. So this would be like the North Pole area or the Camp of the Saints covered in the dome. And then under this area, we have the roots of the world tree, but also the maze. And then this is basically like the world that we're in right now, and we're trying to get to this gateway to take the Rainbow Bridge to the top of the mountain. And I'll show you a ton of symbolism that supports all that too here. All right, so number 10 will be the maze, which of course The Shining is really made popular. Let me check in with you guys in the chat. All right. This one looks like a field of wheat. Just checking out your guys' comments. Yep. God is above all of this. I agree. Someone asks if I follow IPS and Jurassic Liars. I like both their channels. I haven't really followed IPS much lately. I used to though. I think he has great takes on the world script and all the world media stuff. um, he often makes fun of the Mandela effect though, which I obviously totally disagree with. So that's a little weird for me. I think that's kind of why I kind of gravitated away from him. Jurassic Liars, though, I mean, yeah, another great channel. I've talked with his name's Garo. Yeah, I've talked with him a lot. I haven't followed him lately either. I really haven't followed too many people lately. I just don't really have the time. But yeah, a lot of awesome. Definitely check out both those channels. I think they're both like very anti Mandela effect though, which is I find it kind of ridiculous to be honest. I mean, no offense to them personally, but there's just so much evidence of the Mandela effect. I mean, just go through my channel and you'll see thousands of things. I mean, I literally showed you at the beginning of this stream how the Hunter x Hunter logo literally changed from the previous stream to right now. Like God literally changed that logo one day after I talked about it. So, you know, uh, the idea that the Mandela effect isn't happening or isn't supernatural is ridiculous to me. People basically have to be sticking their heads in the sand, and they're also missing out on miracles from God. So, you know, that's but, I do like both of them, to be honest. I'm not trying to make it personal. I'm just not really super interested in watching people who are anti-Mandela effect because they're missing out on, I would say the biggest aspect of all these truth topics. I mean, just from a, you know, matter of fact statement, like nothing is bigger than reality itself changing. So, you know, a lot of people don't really talk about the Mandela effect. I mean, a lot of people like, you know, understand that it's happening and they don't even really talk about it much. I mean, I'm still building up all this world script information, and once I'm done with it, I'll be getting back to um, mostly talking about the Mandela effect because I think it's the most important aspect of all of this. So maybe at that time, some people will start coming around and realizing that it's real because they're really missing out on something amazing, you know. And I actually I thought it was like a psyop for a few years, and I missed out on some really amazing things. So you know, the sooner people start realizing it's real, you know, the better for them because the more they're going to see and experience that are literally miracles. Um, so you know, I just encourage anyone to take another look at it. If you're like strongly opposed to the Mandela effect, just you know, give it another look. You know, kind of forget what you think you know about it and check out my channel. There's just tons and tons of pieces of evidence and meanings and patterns and powerful you know spiritual messages, and you can literally watch things changing. You know, people have watched the thinker statue change multiple times. The Statue of Liberty has changed multiple times. King Tut's headdress has changed multiple times. So you could like carefully be looking at something, and then the next day it's different. You know, so it's definitely real. It's definitely supernatural. I know that there are some people who think like the devil's doing it or like CERN's doing it. I don't believe that, but I mean, if that's where you're at, you know, there's nothing I can really say to counteract that. We all have to just make our like if you know that it's supernatural, that's really, you know, the most that I can prove. Um, but I think it's benevolent. I think God is doing it. I get that there are some that seem negative to people, especially like the Bible changes. But I think that we're also in a time where do you think you're going to be bringing like the Bible to paradise? You know, like I don't think we need I'm not saying don't read the Bible or don't care about it. I think it's very important. But I think God is also telling us that you know, if we're establishing a connection with God, then you don't need other things to help you get to God. You know, just be with God. You know, so I think that's part of why God is changing the Bible so much. It's like, you know, how much can I change this thing? And you know, people are still going to like idolize it. Um, yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it. Um, yeah, I don't agree with making exact date predictions like the 6/11 stuff. But I do think that Garo has a ton of awesome connections, a ton of awesome, uh, you know, all the gematria stuff, and there's a lot of really awesome connections that he's brought to the table. A lot of stuff with like Seattle and all that. Yeah, I mean, it would be cool if more people started getting on board with the Mandela effect, but I'm not even really there yet with these live streams. Maybe when I get there, you know, more people will start caring about it. It could be like one of those things where God is kind of saving it for last, you know, because it's like, of course, you know, many people have been talking about it for years, but it's really just not that big as far as I've seen in the truth community. I don't think a lot of people still are really ready for it. So maybe like you know, right before the end, more people will be understanding of it and ready for it. All right. So getting back to number 10 here, The Maze. So this is about The Shining. Final bosses. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of negativity from him as well. I don't support anyone being negative. I'll never, say anything like that. And I don't support. Um, there's a lot of like truth channels that are always, they always have like a bone to pick with somebody. They always have like some kind of grudge. They're always, being negative towards other truth channels and stuff like that, thinking they have all the answers and no one else has any answers. This is a group effort, and I think we should all try to take the high road. Give people another chance. I mean, we can't expect God to be forgiving of us if we're not forgiving of other people. So there's too much hate and making fun of people and negativity and all that in the truth community, and I definitely am against all of that. And that doesn't mean that I throw the baby out with the bathwater or I'm against people who are doing that entirely. But I don't support their negativity, I'll just put it that way. But uh But yeah, I think people need to be more forgiving and more, we want God to be forgiving and merciful with us. And I don't think he's going to do that unless we're forgiving and merciful with other people. You know, I think in the Bible, and I'm like paraphrasing, but someone asks Jesus, what's the most important things for us to do? And he basically says to love God and to love your neighbors as yourself. So I highly suggest people try their best to do that. All right, so going back to the maze, of course, The Shining is massively has massively popularized the hedge maze and all that. The Overlook Hotel. This is another big North Pole location. You have of course, the main building and the mountain and all that. Oh, interesting too. Talking about Garo. So on the fridge of the on their refrigerator, they have like two pictures, and it reminds me basically like, is this like, it looks like the Twin Towers and then the Space Needle, and these are like the two. This is kind of like the start of the world script ending and the end of the world script ending, possibly, because I can definitely see something major happening around the Space Needle, because that makes total sense as far as the world script is concerned, like some kind of like atom bomb EMP related thing in conjunction with a Space Needle like tower, probably in Seattle, I would assume. And Seattle is also a big North Pole location. And I've talked about that in the past too. Um, but yeah, it's just interesting that they're like the two postcards on the refrigerator. So when the family is going to the Overlook Hotel, they're going through the Misty Mountains again. So this is like, Lord of the Rings and a bunch of other things where, you have the mountains, you have the mist, so they're going to the North Pole. Here's the dartboard I showed you guys. Here's the twins with the M handhold, which I'll talk about later. Here, this is like a blue beam mural on the wall where it's kind of like totem pole type stuff, but this is also like that thousand birds I was talking about. It looks like a bunch of bluebirds, but this is about the blue beam. And then here we have the hedge maze, the overlook maze. So that this maze is like the maze at the bottom of that Nordic, you know, uh, demonstration of the North Pole area. So here we see Wendy and Danny doing the M handhold as they walk through the maze. Here we have inside of the overlook. There's this is like more mist than would be in a place like that. So they and Kubrick was very particular about every shot in his movies. So he's definitely, and of course the mist is like the mystery as well and all that, but it's again the mist at the North Pole location. You have to combine all these symbols, and of course right above his head we have all these O portals. And here when he's fully possessed or body snatched, Jack does the 666 hand sign, which I in the first live stream I did, I showed a bunch of stuff like this just to show that it is a big club type of thing. Like, this isn't just random. These people all are in secret societies, and they do these symbols on purpose to show their allegiance and all that. And this is, it's like a plasma spiral, like a six, plasma um, downward spiral, basically, is uh, there's many things you can look at it as. 666, the number of the beast, number of a man. But also it looks like, the downward spiral, whereas the number nine would be like an upward spiral. There's smart people doing that. I talked about a lot of these. Who's Joe Biden during a speech doing it, which was totally ridiculous. Here's like the Beatles all doing their hand signs. And this is actually residue because the top of the yellow submarine is like white now and it looks different. So it's interesting there too. But also, the devil horns and the triple six. This is all like Apex Dome, red plasma, Kraken, allegiance. Um, so this famous scene where they're walking up the stairs and Wendy has the bat. Right behind her, this kind of looks like that North Pole map. Looks like this. So I just found that interesting. And there's a lot of, symbolism in The Shining, of course. Um, got the Nordic map. Here's so Jack, he's now fully body snatched. He doesn't just do the triple six hand sign. He also does the devil horns hand sign. And here we have, Bush and all these other people. I've shown a lot of these before in the first live stream, if you're interested. Again with the Beatles doing a bunch of different, you know, same stuff, but a little bit different. Um, Here's Elon Musk with everything with this guy is X related, which relates to the North Pole. So like the Hyperloop logo is an X. Here's wife at the time Grimes. She's doing this, yeah, the devil horn hand sign, and she's actually the mother of the his kid named X. And then here's her. This is like an ad for her music video that came out right before the CV, Pan event, and she's holding this Art of War. So this is showing that they do know what they're talking about. It is all a world script, and it's not. This isn't just like random. It's not just from like creativity, although creativity does work that way, where these world script symbols do appear in our creativity, but not to this extent that these people do it. They definitely know the world script. They're definitely being led by Lucifer or fallen angels or whatever who know this world script. And in this video, they have the masks. And keep in mind, this came out like right before the Pan event, and this is Elon Musk's wife at the time. And they do dance moves. If you watch this video, I think it's called Violence. Yeah, it's called Violence, and they do. Like the dance moves are all about them choking, like the "I can't breathe" symbolism, and they're also like it's like they're jabbing themselves with needles and stuff like that. Like it's really over the top if you watch it. If you haven't seen it, I've talked about it before, so I don't want to get too into it. But here we have Trump, of course, with the devil horns, and going back to The Shining, Wendy's going up the stairs. This even kind of looks like an X in a circle, even though I think it's got 8 points to it. But again, with the the O portal and the North Pole stuff. But here, when Jack is, again, body snatched, he's also sticking his tongue out. So it's, they got the devil horns, they got the triple six, and the tongue sticking out. Now, this is, one of Stanley Kubrick's biggest movies. He is obviously showing us that these three symbols of the tongue, the devil horns, and the triple six, they relate to this, people that are body snatched, people that are possessed. And then here we have during the lockdowns, they had this Kali symbol put onto the Empire State Building, and it's just like so crazy, and it's got the tongue sticking out, and like the third eye, and all that. And this is all this, Kraken black goo body snatching symbolism. They're basically possessing these people, and we're right at the tail end of this all this culminating um, into what this Kraken army of the dead is going to be like. So I don't think there's too much time left. I don't think the world's going to end tomorrow, but I mean, I feel like it has to happen. This is something that Jurassic says too, where I think he says that all this stuff has to happen while Trump is the main person in the spotlight, because it just doesn't make sense if he goes away and then we have like another president, and it just things would start to not make sense, and maybe things won't make sense in the future, but I'll say that. I mean, it's it only like Trump is always like this, antichrist figure and this Trump character, and this character appears in all these stories, and I've talked about him a lot in the past, so I'm not going to go over it now, but whenever you see like this antichrist figure who's like the main villain, or like a character who's literally like Trump, like a casino owner or businessman, like in the Lego movie. The main villain is President Business, so that's Trump. And then President Business comes out with the Kraken V on Taco Tuesday, which is TT, which is the 2020. It's also TT, like the double cross, like the Antichrist. And that's when Trump came out with the V in 2020, and that movie came out in 2014. So it's all scripted, and it all leads up to Trump and the V and all that. And we're just, this V, it obviously wouldn't take effect in people, after like one day. I think it needs like, maybe 7 years for it to fully manifest inside of them to build this, microscopic infrastructure that the Antichrist is going to, live in their bodies with. And it's going to interact with all the robotics and AI, macroscopic infrastructure that they're putting around. And when Trump got reelected, the very first thing that he did was he like day one, he had a huge conference about spending, billions, tens of billions of dollars on AI infrastructure. So that's all going to come into play, and it's all going to happen kind of around the same time. Like it's all going to manifest. So here we also often see these possessed, body snatched people falling. So Wendy hits Jack with the bat, and he falls down the stairs. So you'll often see these, zombies, spiritually dead people, villains. They're always like falling. So if you keep that in mind, you'll see it in practically everything. And oftentimes too, the hero will fall, but because they're a hero, they'll rise also. Like in like the Lego movie, the main character, he falls down into the abyss. He sacrifices himself for everybody else, but then he comes rising up out of the abyss like the phoenix. So the spiritually dead people, they don't come rising back up. They're down in the abyss. But people like us, hopefully, the heroes, we go down and then come back up like Jesus. And that's what the blue beam also does. It retracts into the earth, and then it builds up its charge and its energy. And when it's ready, it shoots back up. And that signifies the return of Jesus to the world. All right, so Dark City, tons of symbolism, of course. Oh, of course. So when we first see the Kiefer Sutherland character, he's basically like the Holy Spirit, essentially. He also returns the memories to the main character John, which is like the giver and stuff like that. And the first time we see him, he's sitting in front of a maze. So here you can see this is Jennifer Connelly. She's also got the JC initials, and they're talking over this rat maze. So here you have the rat in the maze. In the tall grass, this is another Stephen King story. All this tall grass basically serves as a giant maze. You can see how it's like a maze and they can't get out of it. And inside the center of this maze is the Black Rock Rupus nigra. And Alice in Wonderland, of course, one of the most famous stories ever. Towards the end of the movie, she's in this giant hedge maze, kind of like The Shining. And of course, she has the yellow, blue, and white coloring. This is like the Columbia coloring of the blue beam, which she represents. And here we see another view of the maze, more like a black and white. And you have the red, soldiers of the Antichrist, basically, in the castle in the background. In this movie, Damsel, which I've talked about a bunch of times. Here we have this is a lot of, like blue beam symbolism and sword in the stone symbolism here. Just one second. Sorry, if you're new to the stream, I'm getting over the flu. It's not a very pleasant time. Um, so we have the sword in the stone. There's even like a beam coming right up out of here, out of like the sword in the stone area. So this is the main character, LOD, who's played by the same actress who also plays Elle in Stranger Things. This is her sister, and they're talking about how they're very far up north. And here they're doing the M handhold as they walk to the castle. Sorry. And here, when they're taking their vessel to another North Pole location, they're going through the mist, and they arrive at the mountain and the castle. And here's like the shadow of the mountain over the castle. It's like, this looks like a bright, fairyland castle, and then it becomes dark, like shadowy. And here's like the bridge to it. Sorry, having some trouble breathing. But one of the things that LOD does is she makes mazes, and you always have to get to the center of her mazes because this is like the concentric circles and the North Pole area here at the center that we're supposed to get to. Basically paradise. And here she gives her maze to this prince who's she thinks he's nice, but he's planning on sacrificing her. And the whole movie is actually really interesting with the world script. And here he basically she gives him this message, and it's like a maze to the center of her heart. And if you look, you got like the blue and the E here, and this could be like Eden or the East also at the center. So there's always like some kind of maze aspect in these movies. And here's when she's thrown down into the abyss, basically, and she winds up right next to this dead world tree at the center. Um, sorry. And she's like, screaming for help, which isn't going to come. She has to, fight her way out, and she has to find the blue light. And a lot of stuff I've talked about before. I don't want to get too into it, but a lot of incredible symbolism in that movie, and in Westworld too. I've still only seen the first season of this, and I think a few more episodes, but I do have to watch this eventually. But there's a lot going on here, of course, with the symbolism. Uh, Vultures come up a lot. The black hat. Here, this is kind of like the blue beam shooting through the dome symbolism, and the land of the dead. But one of the main symbols in Westworld is this maze that they find, and you have to get to the center. And you can research this on your own. There's two different mazes apparently. Like I'm not too familiar with the show. I only saw the first season like a long time ago, but I do remember them finding this maze. But again, and this show is filled with symbolism, of course. And this is also by Jonathan Nolan, who is Christopher Nolan's brother. And you can also see how it's like the brain. It's also like the monarch and a bunch of other symbols too. And in Lost, the Dharma Initiative here, their main like symbol is like a big maze that you have to get to the center of, and you can see all these different Dharma symbols, and they're all representative of I mean, like you got like the Hydra Kraken, you got the rabbit, you got the blue beam arrow, basically. So very symbolic. Um, Even the X down here, it's almost like the skull and crossbones, the star, the lighthouse, um, there's even I think it's called the Looking Glass too, like Alice in Wonderland. And just more symbols for that. This is a map that appears on the back of a wall that they didn't realize was there, and it's all about getting to the center with the question mark. Here's it from the show. And let's see. So the question mark is the location of the Pearl Station, and it's a pivotal moment. And this is where they find the truth about things, where they realize that they're actually in a psychological experiment. So it gets pretty interesting there. And you could read into this. In Hellboy, which I've talked about a lot, this is also a Mandela effect. Um, Give me like just like a couple minutes. I gotta see if I could fix my breathing a little bit. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I just have like so much phlegm and stuff from having the flu. It sucks. All right. Getting back to Hellboy here. Um, this is a Mandela affected logo. The O didn't used to be this small. The E here didn't used to be like so condensed like this. And the logo in the movie actually is all these letters are really merged together as well. I don't know if I have that. Well, here it's you can see how they're like merged together too much. This is like what it's like in the movie, and I don't remember it being that scrunched together either. But I think what it's saying is like the Hellboy has like the small O portal, and then like there's other changes like Paperboy, and the word paper is more like a new beginnings type of symbol, and that has like the bigger O. And I've talked about that before, but it's an interesting dichotomy. So here there's a scene in Hellboy, and I've talked about Hellboy a lot too. Like, there's just so much in this movie as well. It's just endless, world script symbolism. But they get to like this misty mountain area. So this represents the North Pole location, and they're walking through the storm, and these are the villains. And they get to this like cave area, which looks very similar to like Damsel and a bunch of other stuff that we've talked about. And they get to this concentric circle maze, and they're pointing at the maze. So this is all the same symbolism in all these stories, and like it's not just this maze. It's 50 other things. That they all have the same needles and black goo and body snatching, and like the final season of Lost is literally all about characters getting body snatched, and um and just like all the symbolism, there's the blue beam, there's the domes. There's just they have it all. Especially certain things have more than others. Of course, like the Matrix movies have most of the world script symbols. Nothing probably has every world script symbol in it, but when you see like five things or more, then it's definitely a world script piece of media. So anyway, we have this concentric circle maze that they get to, and then they do a blood sacrifice of their guide onto this maze, basically at the North Pole, and it's like filling up with blood here at the center. And this is also symbolic of like the black goo as well, I would say. And then the Antichrist character gets rebirthed into the world from this like abyss, basically. And this is how he comes back as the villain of the story. And this guy here, he literally he's also basically like the Walking Dead, and he's like a puppet, and he's also like the needle character. Like he uses like these like sharp needles as weapons. So it's just all the endless same symbolism. So this movie Cube is really interesting. It's like a lower budget independent film that came out in like the late 90s, and it's about people being trapped in like this prison world of cubes, and it's symbolic of our lives basically. And here you can even see this cube. It kind of looks like the North Pole area with the four continents and the four rivers. And even like this one area here, it's like the bigger one of the rivers has more tributaries than the other rivers, and it kind of looks like this shape. I've shown that the map a lot of times, but if you just look up the Mercator map of the North Pole, it looks just like this with the four rivers and the four continents. Um, so here you have the characters trapped in this cube maze, and the whole thing is like a big maze, which is why I'm bringing it up. And they're trying to get out. And interesting too, this girl who solves most of the puzzle, her name is Levin, which is a very strange name, but it's very similar to like 11 and that type of a name. And a lot of the rooms are like red rooms, so this harkens back to The Shining and a lot of other things. Okay, so I mean, here's I guess I added a little later, but so it's like this with see how this one river has more like tributaries than the other ones. It's like it would be like a bigger triangle shape there. I thought I was going to talk more about Cube. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this Cube movie. I thought I had a little more to say about it. I might be forgetting too. I'm still kind of getting over the stupid flu. But anyway, there's a lot going on with this Q movie. Of course, murders happen in the red room. You'll like from what I see, you definitely want to stay away from red rooms. It's bad symbolism. This is also like when people have like a smear of blood on their forehead. That would be like the Red Room, and those characters are usually body snatched or antichrist in some nature. And the characters or the character who ends up escaping is this guy who's like mentally slow, basically, but he also is able to figure out. He's like an idiot savant type of person. And when he's introduced, they even say Jesus Christ, and he's like the burden they have to carry through the maze. It's very interesting, actually. Um, like this movie, Labyrinth is, of course, all about the maze and the North Pole and all that, but it's also Mandela affected because now the L goes into the A like this, and this is a very common pattern of the Mandela effect that we see, where L's are merged into A's. The N might go down a little farther too, and it's possible that all the letters are kind of merged more together than they used to be. Like the RIN here, like why would it be like that? I think these letters were separate, but definitely the L into the A. That's 100%. And here's another poster for Labyrinth. And again, this is about Jennifer Connelly, again associated with the maze, like we saw in Dark City. And her initials are JC. So we have JC lost in the maze trying to get out. And again, here you can see the logo merged. This I just saw the other day. I can't tell you if it's a Mandela effect or not. I was just shown this on the internet by, I believe, the Holy Spirit, just to show you guys. Maybe you're familiar with it, but like, what are the odds that you do have some letter merging here, like the N into the T? This is weird. Like, why would the T not connect to the H, but it does connect to the N? That's weird. But also, you have the L under the A, just like the movie Labyrinth. And Pan's Labyrinth is also Mandela affected. This R is way longer than it used to be, and the letters are just kind of all over the place. And I don't remember it being like that. Like the I is up, the N is down, the T is small and lower, and the H has. This is almost like the opposite of that Hunter x Hunter logo I was showing at the beginning of the stream. And then you have the L going under the A. They're not like quite merged together, but this is weird too. But it just wasn't like that. And then, of course, a ton of symbolism. You got the Dead World Tree, the portal, the spirals, the dome over this dome. So it's like this is like the underworld, like the maze, like in the Nordic depiction uh, of the North Pole that we were talking about before. And here we have the movie The Maze Runner. I actually haven't seen these movies yet or read the books. I've heard a lot about them, and I'm definitely interested because of all this maze symbolism. And I think this is a Mandela effect where the A has been turned into the mountain symbolism, symbolizing the North Pole mountain area. This lambda shape. I don't see why the A wouldn't have a crossbar. I think this came out somewhere around. Does it say? Might not be able to read it. I feel like it came out around like 2014, something like that. But anyway, I think that's another Mandela effect with the A crossbar. And here's another poster for one of the Maze Runner uh, movies. Every maze has an end, and the end, it's about getting to the center. And again, you have the A without the crossbar and all these concentric circle mazes. And another view of it here. And in this movie or this miniseries V, this is all about an alien invasion and body snatching with the pharmakia, V's and all that. And here we have the big, skull mountain, even though this is probably a normal sized skull because it's like forced perspective in the frame. But they're showing you, the apex dome UFO basically landing over the skull mountain of the North Pole. And they're showing this skull huge on purpose. And it's all about, the reptilians and shapeshifters and all that, presenting us with the V that will body snatch us. And they basically take the body snatched people and put them in cocoon pods for their own energy storage and food and all that, which is something that's come up a lot lately, especially with like the Epstein, stuff. And here they show this basically Camp of the Saints area, and these girls are playing Mousetrap, and Mousetrap is like a big maze. And you also have the ET thing, and then there's the alien attack on the Camp of the Saints, and here's all the sparks, and then they blow up the water tower, and then when the water shoots up, this is like the blue beam. Now, this is interesting because there's a lot of mouse related to Mandela effects, and I don't want to get too into what they might mean, but maybe a little bit. But Mickey Mouse is one. He used to have suspenders. That's the whole point of him having these buttons here. And people also don't remember him having a tail. I don't, but I was also never really into Mickey Mouse, to be honest. So it's not a huge Mandela effect for me, but I do remember him having suspenders and no tail. And the name Mickey is like Michael, which is who is like God, and he no longer has suspenders. So perhaps that's so the mice represent us in the maze basically. And as far as the suspenders, I think at least one possibility could be like how puppets are like suspended, by wires and all that. So it's like it seems like a lot of suspenders are being taken away from characters like the comedian Gallagher. He's known for having suspenders, and now he never wore suspenders. And Smokey the Bear is now Smokey Bear, and he no longer has suspenders either. So suspenders are being removed, and I think it's like an anti-puppet message, but that's just my take on it. There could be other meanings for sure. So here's like the original like Steamboat Willie, where he doesn't have suspenders and he's got the tail, but he's got these buttons. These buttons were for his suspenders. Here you can see like this is a stuffed animal where he's got the suspenders. Similar one. There's a couple other ones with the suspenders. This is all what's known as residue, physical residue for the Mandela effect. This is like a foreign one, I guess, but it's a little bit different design. But he's got the suspenders. This is like a Mickey Halloween costume with the suspenders. Mickey like as a fast food employee or something. I don't know, but he's got suspenders. Another stuffed animal with suspenders. So a lot of evidence. I barely even looked. Like I just typed in Mickey Mouse in a Google search, and all those came up right away. Sorry. Mighty Mouse is another big Mandela effect, mouse related. Mighty Mouse used to have a big M on his chest. Now I was never into Mighty Mouse either, frankly, but I do remember seeing Mighty Mouse like in commercials and things, and he definitely had a big red M on his chest. So this could be symbolic, perhaps, of like definitely the North Pole Mountain, but it's also being removed from the Mighty Mouse. So the North Pole Mountain, the way it is right now, is I would say Antichrist in nature. So it would be, and it's also likely going to be destroyed or reformed in some way as well. So it will be removed in that regard. Um, so just something to think about. I don't have like 100% answer on these. Also, it's kind of weird that he has like these eyelashes. I don't know if that's always been there or not, but it looks weird. And I'll show you some stuff here. So here's another Mighty Mouse where he's got no M on his chest and the eyelashes. And then here's like a really old Mighty Mouse where he doesn't have the M on his chest and he doesn't have the eyelashes either. So I don't know about that. It just the eyelashes look weird to me, but it's not like it was always that way. But the M on his chest, that's the 100% for me because he definitely had that. And all I did was look up Mighty Mouse, and a bunch of things came up with the M on his chest. So these are just like fan art things that people made. So he's got the M. Here's another one where he's got the M on his chest. There's another one with the M on his chest. Another one with the M on his chest. Another one. These are all just like fan art depictions because any actual depiction of Mighty Mouse isn't going to have the M on his chest. So why would all these people be putting the M on his chest if he didn't have it? Plus, I remember it. So you can see these for yourself. And I did a quick, Google search of Mighty Mouse, so you could find as many of these examples as you want. Yeah, I just I spent like 3 minutes on it. Um, so here's another movie. I've never seen this movie, but I was very into, or I still am. I guess I don't really gather this media anymore, but I used to, go to thrift stores and stuff, and um, get like any rare, VHS tapes and stuff like that that I could find. And these Disney movies, they're just all over the place. So I had never even heard of this movie, frankly, but I noticed it when I first noticed it, and this was just spelled normally. And I was like, "Oh, Great Mouse Detective." I never even heard of this, Disney movie. I looked at it, and then the next time I noticed it, it was all Mandela affected, and like the H didn't go through the E like this. Here we have the extended R. This wasn't like that. The M into the G, like it wouldn't overlap like that. Um, they, a lot of letter connecting, the smaller E's and the bigger T's, and then you have the V dipping down. There's just changes all over the place with this logo, and I remember it used to look pretty normal. It was actually kind of like a plain logo. So again, the mice represent us, I think, in the maze, and I think God is pointing out that we're like great mice detectives. The people who are actually figuring out the truth of this world. It's also got the yellow and blue coloring too. Another big mouse-related Mandela effect is Pinky and the Brain. This was a show I did watch, and I do remember him saying, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" But now he says, "Are you pondering what I'm pondering?" And it definitely wasn't like that. It sounds ridiculous. So I just did another quick Google search, found some stuff like so someone wrote down, Pinky, are you thinking what I'm thinking? There's like, a bunch of memes people have made. And this is a show for kids. Like I get like the word pondering is like a smarter word. So it actually does make sense for brain to say pondering. But I don't remember it like that. I remember him saying, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" And this is actually a really interesting video on YouTube. You can see it right now if you want. Um, so this channel, they make like supercuts of quotes in movies and stuff. So it's like if you wanted to, I don't know if they have it, but like how I talk about how people say like there's a storm coming all the time. So maybe they have a video where there's like constantly people saying there's a storm coming in all these different movies and TV shows and things. Um, but they have one here where it's all different people from shows and movies and stuff saying, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" And the only one, because I scrubbed through the whole video, the only one that doesn't say the word thinking is this Pinky and the Brain quote because he says pondering now. And what's really interesting too is this is the thumbnail of the video. And Pinky and the Brain was such a huge example of "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" that he actually put it on the thumbnail. And that's not what they say. He says, "Are you pondering what I'm pondering?" So it's another, classic Mandela effect example where nothing matches what people remember. And just an example of what this might mean, I talked about this show Naruto a few times here today. So there's a scene where Naruto, he's in his head basically, and he's speaking with the God figure. So this is basically like The Giver, where the main character is speaking with the God figure and all that. And they're basically like standing on a pond with these ripples. So here we have like the Vesica Pisces world merging of heaven and earth, and it's like, could this be what it means? Are you pondering what I'm pondering? It like evokes that word pond. So just a thought. I think it's at least one valid interpretation, and there might be others. All right, so getting to this Heliofont channel, this is the channel that made iPet Goat 2. They put out a lot of interesting little videos sort of recently, and I want to just touch on them because they relate to these world script topics. And I think that this Heliofont guy or people are literally Lucifer. I mean, like if you watch iPet Go 2 at the end, it says it's directed by Louis Lefebvre. So you have the Louis and like the LL, like I was saying, like with Lucy Liu, like I mean, I don't know. Could it be Lucifer? Could it be someone who's just in Lucifer's like posse? Like, I don't know. But there's definitely a connection there, and it's definitely someone who's in the know, someone who knew the world script back in 2012 and showed it to us in iPet Goat 2, and all these things in the world script, they're in iPet Goat 2. Like I showed you, like the shark, but it's all of it. So yeah, here's like the intro to iPet Goat 2, just so you know what I'm talking about. So they released this video, which they since took down, and you can still find it online, but not on their channel. And it's of the guy who runs the channel, and he's walking through a like promenade in Montreal. So they're in Montreal, Canada, and he walks specifically by all these signs. And I don't want to get into all of them. There's a lot, and some of them are kind of blurry. It's hard to make out exactly what they are. But each sign for all these stores, you can see them all lined up here. And he passes by every single one of them and makes sure that they're all in frame right here at the top left. So the first one he goes by is this henna tattoo, and the tattoo represents like the black goo, and it shows like a white sign and then a black sign. He also passes by the skull and crossbones. This is like the North Pole symbolism. And also, this is something like, you're in a box, and the box represents like the cube or the prison that we're in. Um, This one's kinda hard to some of them are hard to make out. I also don't wanna spend too long on this because I mean, it could be like its own video, frankly, but he also passes by this Chrono, sunglasses place. So Chrono is like, Chronos. It's also got a lot of other meanings too. Um, yeah, I don't wanna get too into it, but it's like, time related and all that. Here you can see it better. So again, with the black and white symbolism and the Chrono. Here also we also have like Mary's something, so this is like the white and blue Columbia coloring, perhaps, or like that type of Mary Mount Meru type symbolism, maybe. But also he passes by this Montreal tropical, and it's got the sun and the moon. So this is like the eclipse symbolism. But also, if you look up what the word Montreal or the name Montreal means, it means royal mountain. So this is like the name Monterey, like we talked about earlier with the movie The Mist and all that. Um, and here we got like the O portal and the white hat, lazuli. So this lazuli, like lapis lazuli, is like that blue stone that they often use in like Egyptian stuff. But lazuli, I think actually, yeah. So it's like symbolizes the sky as well, sky blue. So this could be like the dome symbolism. Moccasin. Do I have a? Yeah, I didn't want to get too into this, but this is an interesting thing to look at because I mean he's obviously sending a bunch of symbols, the heart with the mountain and stuff like that. But what I really wanted to focus on was two things at the end here. So he passes by this building that's got this SOS thing coming out of the center of this maze, and it's called Labyrinth. So this is just if you're interested in SOS. It apparently doesn't mean anything. It's just basically three dashes, three dots, three dashes, and then three dots. But it could also be like save our souls. But it's also got like the 33 symbolism and all that. But so he passes by this building, and it's literally the labyrinth. So this is what we've been talking about. So um, and if anyone has stuff to add in the chat too, feel free, of course, because there's a lot of interesting stuff in this video. But again, just pointing out how iPet Go 2 is filled with all this world script symbolism, and so is this video of him just walking down this pier in Montreal. And what's really interesting too is I think all the people that he passed are just normal people. But at the end, I think these are like his crew. And I don't know if anyone has even pointed this out before, frankly. But these people might seem like normal people. But so this guy here, he notice how he's looking at his watch. And then he's like carefully looking at his watch and he's walking by. And then right at the end, he points to his watch. Now, this is symbolic of something basically called TikTok. Not like the website, but I think that website is very popular right now because of this symbolism, because we're approaching the end of this time, of this era, and right before this great reset of the world. And TikTok is something that you'll often see. Oh, you might not be able to, let me, yeah, here, let me show you. So he's pointing at his watch right as he walks by the camera. And if you pay attention, TikTok is in a lot of things. There's always some kind of clock ticking down. There's always some person saying TikTok. Like in the beginning of Event Horizon, for instance, when Sam Neill meets Lawrence Fishburne for the first time, he's like, the clock is ticking, and that movie's obviously filled with tons of stuff. So there's always some kind of reference to TikTok, the countdown, the doomsday clock and all that. And that's what this is. He's basically saying we're almost at the end here. And then these two people are also definitely in on it too, and they walk by doing the M handhold right at the end of the video. And they even have like a look on their face, like like they know what's up. And then there's nothing left for him to look at. He kind of looks down at the ground, and this is almost maybe that like Tyler symbolism because he's showing you the tiles or the scales, perhaps. And then he put out a bunch of smaller videos on that channel showing different places in Montreal around where they had like the World's Fair stuff. And so here, I mean, this just looks like a random shot, but he's showing you the bridge, and this is the dome in the background too. And he shows this duck. Now, the ducks often symbolize humans. Ducks can swim, walk, and fly. So it's kind of like an evolved person, basically. And we have like the mirror symbolism too. And then he shows there's a video of the dome, so he's hyper focusing on the dome. And also he shows this icebreaker, and icebreakers are known for being at the North Pole to break the ice. Of course, they could break ice anywhere, but um, they're a big time thing at the North Pole. It's very symbolic of that, like in Breaking Bad, which is filled with symbolism. They have like Project Icebreaker, that the cops have to try and get wallets and all that. So I don't want to get too into Breaking Bad. I have actually, if you're interested, check out my Why the Mandela Effect Paints Things Black, part 3. And I think it's the one with the Star Trek Tasha Yar thumbnail. But yeah, there's like a whole like 10-minute segment on Breaking Bad and all the symbolism and how it reveals the world script and what's going to happen in the world too, as well, if you're interested. So he's got the icebreaker, and also these lights in the background are interesting because they start like lighting up bluish. And you have the ladder symbolism, the ice breaking. Oh, and this is interesting too because this is another like countdown symbol here. So he pans to the right and he shows this number 4, and then he keeps panning, and it's like 4, 3, 2, 1. So again with this TikTok symbolism. And then he also shows like this twin pillar bridge symbolism, and then he pans over to the right and he shows like this little, forest in the center. And I think this is like the camp of the saints at the North Pole. And he pans right by that. And then he shows these two like roofs or something, and it looks like this like 1111 symbolism. So just some interesting things. I mostly wanted to point out, the things that we've been talking about, like because I'm going to be talking about the bridge also here soon, and so we got the bridge, the maze, the labyrinth, the M handhold. I'll be talking about that also. Um, so yeah, I mean, it goes back to this where you have the maze or the labyrinth in the underworld basically, and then the gate, and then you take the rainbow bridge up to the top of the mountain. And this plays into another big Mandela effect for the video game Mario Kart 64. So, for starters, the Mario logo is changed. The O wasn't small like this; it looks like Marlow now, and the M and the A are way merged together. Like the A didn't used to break into the M like that, and it's like that for pretty much every Mario game, even the first one. And this is really an incredible Mandela effect. If you know the game Mario Kart, this is like it should be a mind blower because on this Rainbow Road map, this used to be the hardest map in the game. And I remember playing this, back in like the late 90s or whenever it came out, and you could just drive right off of this Rainbow Road because there was no barrier. But now there's all these star barriers, and you literally can't fall off the Rainbow Road now if you have these gold stars. So it's like this, gold star symbolism keeping you, like if you're, acting and behaving and spiritually existing like a gold, like one of God's gold stars, then it's kind of like saying you're on the path of the Rainbow Road and you're not going to fall off if if you have this, you know, positive nature of you about you. That's what I get out of it. And here you can see another shot where, like you used to be able to just fall right off this rain. It's the most difficult course in the game, but now there's nothing difficult about it because you can't fall off. And here you can see people have even gone to like painstaking, uh, ways of recreating this Rainbow Road in like 3D environments and stuff, and because people are obsessed with these video games, and you can and like you could see like there's no gold stars, so like they're gonna recreate the whole map, but they don't have the gold stars on the sides. Like that's it's because it's a Mandela effect. It didn't used to have the gold stars on the sides. You used to be able to just fall right off. All right, so getting to the bridge here. Oh wow, we're at almost 2:30. Yeesh. Just want to check in with the chat. Hey, Blue Pac-Man, what's up, man? Yeah, Blue Pac-Man's on the same page with the Mighty Mouse M, it looks like. Yep, it was Are You Thinking What I'm Thinking for sure. Yeah, I don't know about that, Adam. I have a different take on the Berenstein one. That's funny though. Um, oh, just checking out your guys' chats. Yeah, I don't know what to say about the children, kids, baby goat thing. There's probably something to it. Well, it's interesting, relating Kit Kat and, Tic Tic it would be Tic Tac, yeah. There could be something there. There's actually if you look up the history of Kit Kat, it's actually pretty interesting 'cause, there's, like, it's named after this place, like, the Kit Kat Club, and, like, they used to, like or they serve, like, lamb there, so you got, like, the lamb symbolism perhaps. I'm not sure what the Kit Kat one is yet, frankly. Yeah, and indoctrinated saying he fell off the rainbow road thousands of times. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Rolly too. Yeah, that's like 100 percenter. That's so ridiculous. All right, so getting back to the bridge, another huge symbol of the world script and of the North Pole area. So when you see a bridge, see if it's in conjunction with any of these other symbols. And a bridge also has a lot of meanings to it, like the bridge of a ship, the primary command and of course, you have the bridge in Star Trek, and one of them is how now has this crystal in his ready room, and the ready room is right next to the bridge. So now, in over 70 episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, Picard he's often holding it. He has a crystal, and nobody remembers this. Like one of my best friends is like a huge Star Trek fan. He's seen every episode, and he never heard of this Picard crystal, and it's in over 70 episodes. And here he is holding the crystal. And I've talked about why this is the case. It's about the third eye and the crystals in our third eye, I believe, communicating with God. And the name Jean Luc Picard, it's like all three pillars. You have Jean like Jean for the right pillar, you have Luke like Lucifer for the left pillar, and then you have the pike or the spear for the central pillar. So that's like the full trident. And now he has the crystal in his ready room right next to the bridge, which is the control and command center, which is our pineal organ, which is where God is going to live and sit, or Jesus is going to sit on our throne. That's like our throne room in our head, in our temple. And here you can see the crystal sitting on his table, which it often does now. He's also got the fishbowl, interestingly enough. So there's a musical bridge. You can look into that on your own. There's also what's more on the music bridge. Let me see. There's actually some interesting things it says here. I just don't want to get too into it. Um, yeah, there's definitely some interesting things here. But we also have the bridge of our nose, which is basically the entrance into the third eye area up there. Um, the corpus callosum between our two brain halves is known as a bridge. Also, DNA is considered a bridge, which often comes up in these movies too. So in this movie, Free Guy, at the end of the movie, he has to take a leap of faith off of this collapsing bridge, which you'll often see the leap of faith associated with the bridge. So he's known as Blue Shirt Guy. He's got the blue shirt. He represents the blue beam, and he comes taking a leap of faith, shooting off of the bridge through the portal, and he ends up in paradise. And the people can't see what's going on; they don't see it. But then he lands in paradise, and then once he lands in paradise, this barrier dispels, and all the people see it, and they're all cheering for him because he's the hero. And now waterfalls are another big symbol of the North Pole, which I might get into another time. I've talked about it before too. They also show the hexagon dome here, the small dome, and this Tsunami company is what made that video game platform. And I think they're saying, it's not just tsunami like a big wave. It's like soon. This is like the TikTok symbolism. And Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, of course, he has to follow the word of God, and this is basically like a maze that he has to follow. That's over an abyss, so he has to proceed in the footsteps of the word. And then once he does that, he has to take a leap of faith over the abyss. And when he does, he realizes that he's on a bridge, and then he walks across the bridge to the paradise area, where they have eternal life and the Holy Grail. And here his like legs are making like the mountain symbol, and this is the knight who's guarding, paradise. And also like the Vesica Pisces symbolism. This is like a dome and all that. And then he gives his sword to the new hero. And the name Indiana Jones, you have Jones, which is like John, and then Indiana means star. It comes from the Indus Valley or the Indus River in India, which all means like star and starry river and all that. So again, with the star symbolism, like we saw in Mario Kart 64 on the Rainbow Road on the bridge. So here we have like the Antichrist villain who's he has no idea what he's looking at. He doesn't have spiritual eyes or ears. He just thinks the most gaudy grail is the cup of the King of Kings. So when he drinks from it, here we have him, and he's in the Black Mirror, and then he ages rapidly and dies and turns into the skull and bones, basically like the land of the dead. And then the knight says, he chose poorly. But Indiana, he has the spiritual eyes to see that the cup of Christ would be the most humble one there. So he drinks out of the grail, and he says, "You have chosen wisely." So this is like, us having our spiritual eyes and ears. But this grail can't leave beyond the Great Seal. So it's only at the North Pole where this eternal life exists. And, that's the boundary and price of immortality. So in Indiana, or sorry, in Back to the Future 3, end of the track here. So this is the bridge, but it's not complete. So at the end of the movie, they have to take their vessel, and you got this is kind of like the 33 symbolism too. It's got the 131 train. Here you have the sparks and and Marty McFly. He's the MM. So this is like the central mountain, and he's got the sparks and the blue plasma, and he's going over the bridge, and he's taking the leap of faith. So again, with the leap of faith over the bridge, and these are the streets of fire, which comes up a lot too. And Lord of the Rings, when through the mountain, they have to face against, literally like Satan, this Balrog that looks just like Satan. And Gandalf, the Christ figure, sacrifices himself for everyone else on the bridge. And here's where he's saying, you shall not pass. And he creates like basically like a small dome over himself against this Kraken, devil entity. And he's got the crystal. And then, this whip, this is like the Kraken tentacles. And he gets pulled down at the bridge. And this is actually a Mandela effect too, although it's not one for me. But I do have like one of those weird memories of this. But I do remember him always saying, "Fly, you fools." But a lot of people say that he used to say, "Run, you fools." But I have like this really weird memory. And when you have like a weird memory like that, um, where it's like, why would I remember this line like so much? I remember like talking about this line with one of my friends, like after we saw the movie, and it's just like, why would I even have that memory? So I feel like it is a Mandela effect, but I can't say from my own experience. But again, it would be like a fly related Mandela effect, like "Fly, you fools." And this is literally at a scene where the Christ character is sacrificing himself on the bridge, and he's telling us to fly, to get out of the underworld, to fly up out at the North Pole. And then when he falls, he does the Christ pose, and then he goes down through the fire and the water and battles the devil, basically. Okay, so I did want to. Okay, so going back to this Cube movie. Um, so this is that character Levin. She's saying, I wanted to get subtitles here. That coordinate placed the room outside the. Okay, oh, this. Okay, yeah. So one of the cubes they call the bridge, and it's the bridge out of the prison to the world that they want to get to. And they're saying here it's like a bridge, the cube that goes outside of the prison, and it's in it when it's in its original position, it's the bridge. So she says the room starts off as a bridge, and when you hear the word room too, that's also talking about our pineal organ, our third eye. That's like the room. That's like the red room, like in The Shining and stuff like that. Um, then it moves its way through the maze. So you have the maze, you have the room, you have the bridge, which is where we ran into it, but at some point it must return to its original position. So the bridge is only a bridge for a short period of time. And this again is like the TikTok symbolism. This is like when a portal opens, a portal is only open for a short period of time. So when whatever happens here, where we're going to get some kind of access to the North Pole or paradise or however this is going to work out, there's only going to be like a short amount of time for us to take that leap of faith. And I know a lot of people aren't really ready to take a leap of faith. And I would just suggest, thinking again about that, because the leap of faith is a huge part of the world script and a part of our journey, to get back to the Garden of Eden, to paradise, to be with God again. And if you're not willing to take a leap of faith, then you're not going to get there. And that's just the story. So, uh, like I said, I feel like a lot of like, truth channels and that they're not willing to take certain leaps of faith or a leap of faith. And I would just suggest maybe, thinking again about that and maybe asking God for help with your faith, Um, so she's saying this thing is like a giant combination lock, this and that. So okay, so getting to this movie Venom. Sorry if I'm going a little fast through some of these things, but it's just a lot to present, and I'm already at 2.5 hours. All right, so, I've shown this before where Eddie, the main character in Venom, he needs to get to the top of this needle building, and, they won't let him up there, so he basically covers himself in black goo. It's like a black goo jacket. He goes up to the and this is the Dark Tower, like we see in the Lego Movie and a bunch of other things. And here he is as Venom climbing up the tower and breaking the glass too as he goes up there. So this building in San Francisco is literally known as the Needle Building. I think it's called the Trans-American Pyramid Building, frankly. But it's also known as the Needle Building. And then when he gets to the top of the needle, it's like a drop of black goo on top of a needle. And then he looks out at the bridge. Um, and the bridge represents our DNA. And then Venom says, "This is something like this is the end of your world, because if you've taken the black goo and your body snatched, that's the end for you. Basically, you're going to be a member of the Kraken army of the dead, essentially. Now's the time to pray about it." So, an invasion of the body snatchers, 1978. This poster is really crazy. We've talked about it before. The movie starts out in space. So space is two things. One, it's the space outside of the dome, which is where the Kraken entity exists, the Leviathan. Um, and also, space is the inner space inside of our heads. And this is where they body snatch us if they're able to, get us to be thinking in antichrist ways and get the black goo into people and stuff like that. So this entity, it arrives on Earth through space, and the first thing we see is like this communications tower, and then the mist, again with the mist, and then the mist kind of clears, and we see that same needle building in San Francisco. And then this needle building is in a ton of stuff. You could actually look on Wikipedia, and there's like a whole list of movies that have this needle building in them. And so this is like the first thing they show you, like in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like it zooms in on the Earth and it goes right to the needle building. So like, they're saying that the body snatching is happening with the needles. And then they also show the bridge. This is the Golden Gate Bridge with the mist all around it, and pans down to the alien invasion happening on the plants and all this. And like we've seen, like I've seen like Richie from Boston videos and stuff like that, where like people are like finding this kind of weird stuff all over in nature, where it's like webbing and goo and whatever. And like I haven't seen it myself personally, but whether it's real or not, it's all symbolic of this same body snatching that's going on in the world. And here we have like these plants covered in all this goo. Interesting too. It's directed by someone named Kaufman. So this like harkens to like that. There was like a Dr. Kaufman in like with all the pan shutdown stuff, the CV stuff. And then like when these droplets are on these leaves, they actually spider out like kraken tentacles, because it's the alien kraken that's in the V's. And like I said, I think it's in like the food and the water and the air and all that too. But the point is that we need to evolve to be spiritually bright and strong enough to not just withstand this kraken, but to overcome it. So it's a test for all of us. We're in a giant test, basically. It's a spiritual test. And you can see how this looks like an octopus with all the tentacles, and then the pods. This is like the cocoon pods and all that. I've talked about that quite a bit. She's picking this flower, and going back to Metal Gear Solid, this game I was mentioning before. Here you get to this area towards the end of the game where this whole area is covered in mist. There's also a waterfall, and there's also a bridge, and the bridge takes you to a building in the middle of nowhere. So this is all getting to the North Pole location. And when you get to this North Pole location, you go down the spiral staircase and you get to this room where you find basically this godlike character, and his name is Code Talker. And he's being held prisoner under this North Pole, mountain, basically. And this really represents God. And this is where the main character learns about all the truth behind the parasites and black goo that's all in the rest of the game. And um, what's really interesting too is when he gets into this room, all of a sudden all the candles turn off and the camera kind of spins around, and then they show the blue beam. And it's really more impressive if you see the video. You can see this like it's this mission is called Code Talker. And when he finds this old man, they literally show the blue beam right above him because this is Jesus basically, and or God, however you want to see it. And he says, that's Code Talker, and like what has God been doing, in my opinion, anyway? Um, he he's like speaks in like code. Like he doesn't like tell us like if he just like told us all the truth, like just matter of factly, then there wouldn't be anything for us to do. So like the Mandela effect and all this world script stuff, it's all in code. It's all meant for us to figure out. And then here he's explaining to the main character about this parasite has infected his band, his group of people. They mimic the host's membrane flawlessly, and no one can tell the difference. So again, it's like this like twin symbolism, like the wheat and the tear type symbolism. And he shows him like this kraken entity parasite, and he says they feast on the host's lungs. But that's a whole thing too about not being able to breathe. Of course, I've talked about that. And then you have to pick up this God character and carry him out of there. So this is like that burden I was talking about, where we need to carry Christ on our backs, basically through this labyrinth maze to get out from under this North Pole mountain area and to get to the top. And this is where you're like carrying Code Talker to a helicopter to get him out of there, and then you have to cross this bridge that's being guarded by basically the Kraken army of the dead, essentially. And you have to walk by a waterfall again, and then you put him onto a helicopter. And then once you're on the helicopter, those skull parasite army people that I talked about, they're essentially the foot soldiers of the Kraken army of the dead. They attack the helicopter, and he's saying it's them, and then they the sky like turn I don't know if the sky turns red, but the whole helicopter gets like rusted out. This is like something that will happen in the plasma apocalypse too, where like things will like rust really fast, and the helicopter comes crashing down, and you land in this at this airfield at this like airport, and there's mist everywhere again. So you land in another North Pole location, and again we have like the dome symbolism in this hangar, and there's a soldier here. He's hard to see, but he starts off as a normal soldier. But then when the skulls arrive, this is one of the skulls behind him. They put all this nano particulate in the air, like all this black dust, like this smart dust, and the soldiers inhale this smart dust, and it turns them into zombie soldiers. And then there's this whole army of these skulls and these smart dust soldiers, and they're all filled with parasites, basically. And then the main soldiers, they have this like nanotech armor that's made out of the smart dust. So it's like it shows how it's like shape shifting. It's like the programmable matter, basically. And then here, so this is like they're like circling, the camp of the saints, basically. So you have like the big X right here on the helicopter, and here's where your character is like protecting the God character, and then you have all this zombie army circling around you, and then you have to, of course, fight them off. And then after you fight them off, I couldn't find like a good enough clip fast enough because a couple people, they just run this other way, but you're supposed to basically run over this big X. So you basically bring the God character to the X that you could sort of see here, and then this is how you evacuate the area and basically get raptured out of that area. Oh, and this hangar and all this, it's all like they go out of their way to say that there's like a north hangar and a south hangar, so it's like the twin tower buildings, and they're like, yeah, they're of the same design, so it's all about like the twins. And then you have like the central communications control tower, and then there's like a helicopter that has like a blue beam shooting out of it, and the blue beam lands literally like in the center. Like there's just so much that like I said, like this game is just one thing after another. It's just all world script symbolism. Oh, and here, okay, so they're actually saying like this is the south hangar. The roof has seen better days, but we can fix it up in no time. Lots of space. Is the north hangar as big as this? Yes, they're of the same design. And then this is actually where they're going to store atom bombs too. So they bring like this whole nuclear, atom bomb thing into it too. And here's like the helicopter with the blue beam. Sometimes it looks more blue than other times. So here, like the blue beam lands on top of the tower. I forgot I got some of those things. All right, so going to AI, another huge movie. Obviously, this is not just Steven Spielberg, but it was a project that was started by Stanley Kubrick. Um, and I think this is a Mandela effect, by the way. I don't remember the kid being in the A like this. I do remember him being the I, but I don't remember him being in the A also. This doesn't even make any sense, really, because there isn't like two of him. So this could be like a doppelganger type of AI symbol. It also looks really weird. I just remember it being an A. And then the unique part of the logo was that he was the I. So they have to cross a bridge into the belly of the beast here to get to the Rouge city, the red city. This is where they have all the weird stuff going on. It's very like sexual, like all the building designs and stuff. But this is also where they meet what he says is the good doctor, Dr. No. So this is where they get their information. And it looks kind of like you have like the white and blue symbolism, which is good, but then you also have like the Kraken hair kind of. So it's got like this, ask me anything. He's like the man behind the curtain. So I think his name's David. He asks, where can I find the blue fairy? And the blue fairy symbolizes the blue beam. So he says you have to, pay me first. So the Jude Law character is like, in this day and age, David, nothing costs more than information. So he says, he's a smooth operator. He'll press our limits. So that's kind of like what we're going through too, where we're trying to find the truth, but there's a lot of like pitfalls and people get stuck down certain rabbit holes and they don't see like the broad picture of things, So we're having our limits pressed. This is it's symbolic of the test that we're in to gain knowledge, but also not to just fall down the knowledge rabbit hole trap of just endless whatever, endless melted buildings, endless gematria. Like those things are important, but if you're just like stuck down those certain rabbit holes, you're never going to see the big picture of everything. And I think it's important to take all these subjects into account at the same time from like a bird's eye view. There's always going to be endless details and endless bits of knowledge to find. But try we must. So he says, where is Blue Fairy? And it's not the kid speaking here; it's the other guy, but they have the camera on him. So he asks, "Where is the blue fairy?" And he says, "In the garden." So he's talking about the Garden of Eden, paradise. The blue beam is in the garden at the center of the world. But he's saying, it's this Vasco stylus. It's a flower, So he shows him the flower, and he says, blooms twice annually with bright blue flowers, blah blah. But what they're saying is the blue beam is in the garden. This is all coded language. So then he says, well, let's do like a fairy tale, or like let's look at it from a different perspective. Then instead of a fact, let's look at a fairy tale. So he goes, where's the blue fairy? So he goes, oh, the blue fairy's in Pinocchio, and this is by we got the CC symbolism here, and the blue fairy is in it's a character in Pinocchio, and here you have the sparks and all that. So then they say, well, how about if you combine the flat fact, interestingly, flat fact, with the fairy tale. And now this combination of fact and fairy tale changes like everything in the scene, where now we're seeing like through the Dr. No's eyes, and they even like pan across like he's at like the third eye area, but they do like a pan across the whole screen. But this is it, the whole like feeling of the scene changes, because this is what we need to do in real life, is combine the fiction with the fact. And that's what a lot of people aren't willing to do, really. But we have like the truth is in the fiction, essentially. And he's asking how to be turned into a real live boy. And like, we're of course real living people, but we're not the way humans are supposed to be. We're trying to evolve into something more. So then the whole thing kind of like shuts down and starts humming, and they do the handhold at the North Pole, at this North Pole location. And then there's this whole speech that comes up, I think from Pinocchio, or maybe, but he says, "Your quest will be perilous." And this, I've shown you guys before. I don't have it here, I don't think, but that logo for the Perils of Gwendolyn, it's like a movie that the logo is heavily Mandela affected. But again, we have this, word peril, because our quest is perilous. Yet the reward is beyond price, eternal life, and more. So the blue fairy does exist in one place, and one place only, at the end of the world where the lions weep. So this is like the waterfall symbolism. And this is the place where dreams are born. And then he says there's some more speech in here, but he ends up saying this is why they call the end of the world Manhattan. And one of the things I've been saying is that Manhattan is, or New York City, is another symbolic place of the North Pole for many reasons that I've talked about in previous live streams. And that's why we must go there. And then when he eventually gets there, he finds the waterfalls and all that, and he eventually falls down into this abyssal, sunken area. And here we have, the concentric circles, like the dartboard, the tower, and he finds this Pinocchio, like a theme park type of thing. And he goes through the gate, and then over the bridge. And then when he goes over the bridge, there's the steps up to the blue fairy, and he finds the blue fairy, which is the blue beam. And then she's actually even standing on these concentric circles. And then he gets a lot of things happen there. If you're familiar with this movie, he gets like frozen there for a long time, and like these aliens come, but they're symbolic of angels. And then he actually gets his dream. His dream actually manifests and happens. Right. So the last one will be this M handhold. I'll just check out your guys' chats real quick. Sorry, I missed a lot. Yep, yeah, Blue Pac-Man. It all leads to a relationship with the creator. That's the main takeaway that people should be taking from all this. Yeah, I think it was a leap of faith to not take the jab. Just think of how like scared so many people were, and they just wanted to be safe from this like deadly thing and all that. Um, like I never felt scared of the CV stuff. But for anyone who did, it was definitely a leap of faith to not get the jab, because like the system was like offering this savior. Basically, they presented it that way, and it's like, oh, finally we can be safe from this horrible thing. So it would definitely take a leap of faith to not have gotten it. And it's like a series of leaps of faith too. It happens in many ways. Yeah, I miss Brian Stavely too. Yeah, he was awesome. Um, Sophia, I think, is really synonymous with this like Blue Beam Columbia, um, you know, symbol. I think it's kind of all the same thing. Like Sophia is the goddess of wisdom, and wisdom is the central pillar. The right pillar is beauty, the left pillar is strength, and then the middle pillar is wisdom. And I think, like the Bible says too, we need to be as wise as serpents, but also as gentle or as innocent as lambs or something like that. So it's like we need to be like, gain the wisdom at the central pillar, but maintain our right pillar orientation. Don't let our left pillar rule us, which would be like the physical world and fear and stuff like that. But the left pillar is not all bad either. That's part of us too. We just don't want to be ruled by it. Um, just checking out your guys' chats. Yep, definitely keep the 10 commandments. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing my best. Thanks. Uh, yeah, interesting that Code Talker's mission was number 47. I think, it happens twice because there's, like, this whole, like, dual story going on, so 47 is the second one, which is interesting too because that's the second time Trump's president, and then the first one I think is 28. So, and that could actually be, like, the 88 symbolism. Just one second. Sorry, just getting over a flu, not feeling too good. Um, just checking out your guys' chats. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots of black and white symbolism. Yeah, I think Trump will be the last president. It would be surprising to me if there's a president after Trump. There might be like some kind of like AI Big Brother type president, but for it to be like a normal person, it would just be I don't know. It wouldn't really. I guess we'd have to see what happens, but from what I'm seeing, it wouldn't make much sense. Yeah, I think the Manhattan Project. Yeah, that's all about the atom bomb, and yeah, I'll be talking about the atom bomb in the future too. I don't fully understand it to be honest, but I do have a lot to say on it so far. So maybe by the time I get to it, I'll have a more complete understanding of it. Hopefully. All right. Oh, is New York situated at 40.7 parallel? I didn't know that. It's interesting. All right. So getting back to this will be the last one we go over the handhold. So we talked about that a lot. This is of course the movie Fight Club, and at the end of the movie they literally show the twin towers falling while they're doing the handhold. And this movie came out I think in 1999. So the movie Interstellar. This is the blue beam on the pyramid, or on the poster. I mean, and on this other poster we had the pyramid and the blue beam shooting up into the apex dome. I saw Jay Dreamers talk about this particular poster. It's a pretty epic one. Again, these rockets often symbolize the blue beam, and notice how it's like shooting up. It hasn't gone through the dome yet, but it's like shooting up through the dome in this poster. And here, the characters, I think this is his children as he's leaving, the brother and sister, and they're doing the handhold while the rocket is shooting up in between. And this movie, Tom Hanks movie, Joe versus the volcano, which I think used to be Joe vs the volcano, and now it's versus. But I don't know. I saw this movie once, so I'm not too familiar with it. But it's a possible Mandela effect. But Joe is the right pillar, and the volcano is the central mountain. And Meg Ryan, I think, is like the blue beam character, basically that he has to unite with. And you also have the union of the male and female, and you have them on the life raft here. So at the end of the movie, when he's about to jump into the volcano, they're doing the handhold, and this is symbolic of that central North Pole mountain, and they're under the dome. You have like the twin pillars and all that, and this is also like the leap of faith into the volcano. So they do the leap of faith while doing the handhold. They jump in, and then they get shot out while still doing the handhold. And this is like the jumping into the abyss and then getting resurrected and shooting up out, like rising like the phoenix symbolism. And then they get shot out of the central North Pole mountain, and they come out like a rocket basically, and the whole thing erupts. And then the mountain sinks down into the water, which is likely what's going to happen is that central mountain will either go away or it will be transformed into something else. Um, and I guess I don't have more of it, but they end up on the water, and then like they're like, oh great, now we're just going to drown in the water. But then his luggage floats up to the top of the water, and they're able to use that as like a rescue raft. And I think there's like four of them, and it's like kind of like the four continents of the North Pole, something like that. So in National Treasure, I think this logo is Mandela affected. It's not like a major one, but it does look strange with like the ends going down and some of the letter mergings, like the A and the S. And then some of the letters are broken, like the A's. And of course, there's a ton of symbolism, and Nicolas Cage's name is Mandela affected. And at the end of the movie, after he's solved the puzzle and saved whoever, and completed his adventure, you have the union of the male and female, and they're doing the handhold, and they're walking to the house in the middle of nowhere, the mansion. They're at the North Pole, and in Daybreakers, this movie is filled with stuff. It's all about the V and the Pan event, and vampires, and Sam Neill, who's the villain. He likes his blood when the people have been feeling fear. It's like the adreno stuff, and it's just one thing after another with this movie. But here you can see on the poster they're on the bridge with the concentric domes, and he discovers that the way to get rid of vampirism is like a small exposure to the sun. So they're in like this like cocoon chamber where he has to it's kind of like a leap of faith where because he could die from it. So he has to, withstand all this pressure and this horrible stuff while he's in this cocoon chamber. But it's the way for him to evolve back to a normal person. And notice too, I haven't talked about this stuff much, but the movie's made by Pictures in Paradise. Again, so you have like the paradise, you have also the PP symbolism and all that. So anyway, they open up the portal, you can call it, and the sun shines in, and he's doing the Christ pose while being on fire here. So this is like the phoenix symbolism. He's the man on fire. There's also a man on fire in Metal Gear Solid. That game, there's literally like a man that walks around who's on fire all the time, and he's called the Man on Fire. Like that's another big symbol that I don't want to get too into right now, but that's another thing to keep in mind is burning houses and someone on fire. This is all symbolic of like rising from the ashes and the phoenix and things like that. And it's also on the chalkboard for I Pet Goat too, where the shark burns the house down on the chalkboard. Just a second. All right, we're almost there. So after he does that, he gets his heart rate back because he was dead. So now he's no longer spiritually dead; he's spiritually alive. Um, and then when the woman comes out who was helping him with the test, they're together and they clasp hands and do the M hand hold. And then Willem Dafoe, who actually plays Elvis in this movie, and it's so crazy. Like his blood is what like cures the vampirism and all that. Like he's like Elvis is Jesus type of thing. And he pulls the sheet off of this black firebird basically, and it even says on the side of the car, "From the ashes springs new life." And then he touches like the phoenix symbol. Then in this movie Upgrade, which is all about a guy who begins the story enlightened and he doesn't want anything to do with machines and nanotech and all that, but he ends up going down this path of revenge and putting the AI inside of his body. He basically gets the mark of the beast. So here, I've shown this a lot. So they start off like with a lot of garden symbolism. They're at a North Pole location. You got the concentric circles, you got the phoenix, the cross. He's got the lamp above his head because he starts off enlightened. Then they leave paradise. They go away from this area with the tower and the blue beam, and they cross the bridge, and then they get to this other location where this is where the Elon Musk character lives. He lives under this mountain, this pyramidal mountain where the eclipse is happening, and he drives his Firebird there. So again, we got the Phoenix Firebird symbolism, just like in Daybreakers. And he's selling his Phoenix vehicle basically to the devil. So like that's heavily symbolic. He's getting rid of his Christ-like nature. He's selling his soul essentially. And as he's walking towards this mountain, they're it's hard to see, but they're doing the M handhold as they walk underground here. Oh, here you see it a little bit better. So they're walking down these steps doing the M handhold, and they find another garden down here. And this character's name is literally like Iran Keen or something, and it's spelled almost like Elon. It's like Eron. And then he's got like the storm going on, and here's like the dead tree. Oh yeah, Iran Keen. Yeah. And he owns Vessel Computers, and then he shows them basically the mark of the beast, and it's called STEM. It's like Neuralink, and Elon Musk also started the Neuralink company. So in this movie Atlantis, oh, it must be the M handhold. So this this is Mandela affected here. At least this first A is now the mountain symbol. Of course, you have the concentric circles, the North Pole Mountain. Here's all the mist that we talked about. You got the blue beam coming out of the pyramid. So at the end of the movie, you have the Kraken tentacles shooting at the what looks like a big tree stump, basically at the North Pole. So you got the volcano going off, the Kraken smoke tentacles. You got the blue beams. These giants have like these blue beam shields, basically, and they create this small dome over the Camp of the Saints at the North Pole to protect from the Kraken attacking it with the smoke tentacles. Then you have the mixture of like fire and ice. They're doing the Christ pose, and then this blue beam shoots down right over these concentric circles. And then the camera pans up through the blue beam to see it coming from the sky. And then this, I haven't even seen this movie. Then this female character comes down from the sky, and she has like the Columbia yellow, blue, and white coloring, and she has the crystal as well. And then you have the union of the male and female, and the union of the hero and the blue beam. And then when they're at safety at the Camp of the Saints at the North Pole, they do again like Daybreakers, where she reaches out and they do the M handhold. So you have the M handhold, and this one's huge. So at the end of this epic anime Naruto, and again, this is Mandela affected with the long R here. These two main characters, they're like the twins. They're like you know, the left and right pillar just always clashing. Naruto is always trying to save Sasuke because he's spiritually fallen, and Naruto is like the Christ character. So like this is just one of the intros I came across quickly, where Naruto, he starts off underwater and he can't breathe. So here's the I can't breathe symbolism. But then his friends push him up, and he represents Jesus and the blue beam, and they push him up, and he gets pushed up through this dome that forms. And then he gets pushed up right through the center, like the blue beam, and he gets shot up into the sky. And then when he's up into the sky, he looks down and he sees the spiraling abyss below him. And here they show him, he's got the right eye open, and he's got the yellow, blue, and white coloring, and he's doing the Christ pose up in the air. And he looks down and he sees his friend Sasuke, who's down in the abyss, and he keeps sinking lower and lower. And he has like the black and red eyes because he's spiritually fallen, and he's on the path of revenge. So the whole story is basically about Naruto trying to redeem this Sasuke character. So at the end of the story, the two of them fight, and they have basically a fight. It's like They Live. I think I even yeah. So like they fight each other, for like days, and like it gets to the point where they're both like totally exhausted and they can barely even punch each other. And it's just like the fight in They Live. Like you can think of these characters as the same person, the right pillar and the left pillar, and the right pillar is like doing everything he can to force his left pillar to see the truth, and the left pillar is just fighting it with every ounce of strength that he has, until finally the right pillar overpowers the left pillar, and he puts on the glasses and he can see, and then they become, one person, and they have the same cause after this. Here's Naruto fighting Sasuke. He's saying the only one who can handle all your hatred is me. Here's where they're colliding. They create like this huge dome explosion. So that's like the end of the fight finally, where they're both totally exhausted and they can't move, and they're just laying down next to each other talking. So I think Sasuke is just saying like, why are you always like fighting for me? Like, why do you care so much? And he's like, I can't explain it. So finally Sasuke says he's lost after like, hundreds of episodes and all this, stuff. So then Naruto's like, the fight's not about winning or losing. It's about punching a sulking friend to make him snap out of it. Uh, and then Sasuke is saying, there's no guarantee I won't stand against you again. So he says, well, I'll just stop you again, because he's always about like perseverance and not giving up and all that. And this is what our right pillar, our Christ-like nature needs to be, like just never giving up, always fighting for the truth and what's right. But he knows that he's finally won him over, and he's like, I know you're not going to do that thing anymore. And they finally and the whole time they're talking, they show like this blood dripping, and then they finally reveal what the blood dripping was, and they hit each other so hard in that last move that they like blew up each other's arms basically. And they're both laying there like this, but they're making like the M handhold, and this is like the main like major like last shot of the whole show. And so you finally have like, the Christ character and the Antichrist, or the left pillar and the right pillar, finally merging, with this M handhold. And they're at a North Pole location, which has like waterfalls and all that. All right, so I'll end it with Fight Club. This poster is definitely Mandela affected. This looks totally ridiculous. This looks like a giant L, the B going into the U. You could barely even read it, really. It looks so ridiculous. So definitely 100% Mandela effect there. And even like if you watch the movie, like the intro text and all that is all messed up too. So like a lot of these letters are all messed up. Like this looks ridiculous. This is the actual movie if you go to watch it. And this is one of my favorite movies. I've seen it a bunch of times. Um, so like this is like Brad Pitt's name at the beginning of Fight Club. It like doesn't even look like a D. Like this is crazy, guys. Like it's obvious. It's 100% Mandela effect, and it's the text, like the font itself has changed. Like the whole font has changed, and like Edward Norton's name looks ridiculous. And then here's the Fight Club logo at the beginning looks ridiculous. So here, okay, I don't want to get too into it, but there's a lot in this movie, obviously. So this woman's doing like this like self-help seminar, and she's got like the pyramid and the circle and all that. And Edward Norton is going into his head. Oh, and his name is Jack, even though he doesn't officially have a name. He refers to himself as Jack often, but he's in the Crystal Cave, and I'll do a whole thing on the Crystal Cave and all that because it comes up a lot in these stories. So here's a but it's funny because I didn't even really remember this that much from Fight Club, and it's one of my favorite movies. But I rewatched it like a month ago or so. But I was like blown away. Like there's so much in it. It's amazing like how much we can see now with this information. Like it's like watching totally different stories. So the place he lives is Pearson Towers, a place to be somebody. And Pearson is the son of Pierce or the son of Peter. And Peter means rock or stone. Like Jesus says, you know, like you're the stone that you're the rock that he built his first church on, you know, that type of thing. Um, so it's interesting because it's like, you know, the twin towers of the at the North Pole, basically. So his house burns down, basically. So here we have like the burning house symbolism, which I'll talk about that in the future. And you have like the yin yang table, the black and white symbolism that goes flying out the window. He's looking at it. So he had met Tyler Durden before, and if you know Fight Club, you know spoilers, but it's the same person. So it's like Naruto and Sasuke. It's like the two characters, and they live. They represent the same twin pillars of the same person. So Tyler Durden, of course, would be the left pillar, and then Jack is like John, the right pillar. So he got this business card from Tyler Durden, which is very, you know, symbolic of all these things, and it's at Paper Street. So paper is like, you know, paper boy, like we were talking about, like new beginnings is basically what paper means. So here's them together. They're like the twin pillars. Here's like, you know, the eclipse symbolism. They have this whole thing with the cigarette burns. Here's where they're talking outside of his new place where he's going to live, which is at the North Pole. So they're on Paper Street, and here's like the house in the middle of nowhere, basically, which represents the North Pole. And then they're inside. You got the dome architecture and all that. And on the outside, the gate to get in. This is interesting because it's like the North Pole map again, with like the four continents and the four rivers and all that. And here we have the house on the outside, and these vines are like the kraken tentacles on the left side. I don't have a shot of it, but it's like I was saying with that movie Annihilation, where they go to the lighthouse, where they have all the kraken tentacle vines on the left side of the lighthouse. And this is like the dilapidated house at the North Pole because it's all run down, and you know we're living in the land of the dead, like in the movie It, like in the Book of Eli, which I showed earlier in this presentation. So here they have this human, you know, sacrifices list, which is very interesting because it isn't what you might think it is if you haven't seen the movie. But basically, what they do is they scare the crap out of somebody, and then they take their driver's license, and then they pretend like they're going to kill them, but then they actually don't kill them. And then by doing that, they're like, well, now that person's going to have like a new lease on life, and they're going to appreciate things more because they were, you know, they thought they were going to die, and now they didn't. It's like that, but you know, there's a whole thing of symbolism. I'm getting kind of tired, but it's very interesting. And this is one of those movies too, which is it's more like a David Lynch or Kubrick type of movie where you have to, you know, dig a little deeper for the symbolism than in like the Avengers or something like that. So here in the basement, you know, they have the concentric circles and all that for the North Pole. And interestingly enough, too, the main mission at the end of the story is takes place at Fulton Ave. And Fulton is like I was showing you earlier in the presentation with the Fulton extraction in that Metal Gear Solid video game, and also you have the 216 symbolism too. But this means like Foul Town, like the village of the birds, basically, which is it's all about ascension, essentially. And here at the end of the story, he's at the Olympic Theater. So here we have the Olympic thing, like I showed you in the movie Akira. Whenever you see like Olympic come up in these stories, it's about Mount Olympus. And like we were talking about, like even like the city of Seattle, which represents the North Pole, it's right next to the Olympic mountain range. And they were showing 7 Years in Tibet, which is like a Brad Pitt movie. But he's trying to save his girlfriend basically from this area because he knows that this whole thing is this whole crazy, I don't want to say plasma apocalypse, but this whole thing is going to go down with the terror stuff and the things they have planned. And he's trying to get her to get away from it. He does like the Christ pose in front of the bus. Then he gets to the area where it's all going to go down, where they have the bomb, and he breaks the glass. So this is like the firmament breaking. And then he goes through to the escalators to the garage. And when you see these cameras, this is like the all-seeing eye. I don't want to get super into that right now. Brad Pitt also doing the Christ pose. They represent the same character. Then they have their final confrontation in this building where they watch the whole city come down. And in order to get rid of Brad Pitt's influence and all that, he has to basically kill himself, but he lives through it. It's kind of hard to explain. There's a lot going on there, but we have the ladder too with the ascension and all that. And but what I mainly wanted to get into, this is after he shoots himself, and he basically merges his twin pillars into one person, which is what the symbolism. One of the main points of this whole symbolism is you have the twin pillars merging into one pillar at the central North Pole location. And then I forget her name. It's Marla, I think. So Marla, that might be representative of like the M and all that. And then they do the M handhold as all the buildings are coming down. Then the last two buildings to come down are these twin towers, and this literally came out like less than 2 years before the twin towers came down. And this, I think I'll show you like these shots. It looks just like it pretty much. Like, it's so ridiculous, and while they're doing the M handhold, it's so over the top, obvious that these people all know what was coming and all that. I don't know about the actors, but the filmmakers know. And, that's it for this presentation. Man, that was a long one to do while getting over a flu. Alright, so I'll just, check out you guys in the chat, and, thanks, Helen. Hey, Supernatural Bible Changes. Good to see you. Hey, Biocharisma. Yeah, check out both these channels, guys. Supernatural Bible Changes and Biocharisma Podcast. Definitely subscribe to both of them. Yeah, the Norman Bates house in Psycho. That's a good one. That's for sure. Exheliocentric. You're welcome. All right. Well, I think I'll call it there. I am pretty tired, not really feeling that good. uh, oh, you did too. Not sure how to say your name, but yeah, yeah. This was, I think, it was the worst flu I ever had. I was like, man, I was like, I couldn't do anything for like 10 days, and it was like brutal. But yeah, if you haven't gotten the flu yet this year, I highly recommend stocking up on some canned goods and some medicines and things that you think you might need. So it's just nice to have because it came on like so fast too. It was like all of a sudden I went from like healthy to sick in like 10 minutes. Yeah. All right, guys. I'll uh I'll call it there, and I'll see you on the next one. So until then, I wish you the best, and God bless.